Slap! The man who hit the young girl told her to get up. She crawled up, thinking, there he goes again. He grabbed her, telling her to stop exaggerating her pain, because he didn't even hit her that hard, and that she should be grateful he even took her in, and repay him by working properly. He thought just like her mother, her pretty face was the only thing worthwhile. If she didn't do her job properly, he'd have no choice but to sell her off as a concubine. He tried to check the goods, but she kicked him and ran away. Blondina thought at this rate, she was going to die. Getting beaten to death was scary, but thinking back to when she overheard some bystanders talking about how they removed another corpse from the Baron's house, her clothes in tatters and body bruised all over, she didn't want to die by grape. She tripped, and out from her pouch fell an important object, one Blondina's mother gave to her as a gift from her father, a shiny ring left by a nameless man who left to get the milk and never came back. Blondina wanted to keep it as a memento from her mother, who died 3 years ago, but she was at her limit. She wanted to live. Rather than cherishing the ring from her father who abandoned her, she needed to keep herself from getting sold off. Visiting the local shop owner, he was somewhat surprised to hear Blondina was here to sell something that belonged to her. Usually, she was selling things off at the request of her master Nordy, who was always in debt from gambling. Upon close examination of the ring, the vendor was shocked. He asked where she stole it from, and she of course assured him she didn't. It was the only thing left by her father. The crest embedded within, however, was a detail the vendor had to get examined. He had her wait while he left to get it checked on, and came back with some men who took her away. She struggled, telling them she didn't have money, and begged them not to sell her off. They took her by horse and carriage, and put her in a room, slamming the door to keep her confined. She was so scared, she didn't know what was happening. When men suddenly came back in, she was worried it was the Baron coming to grab her. Then stepped forward a man in very regal attire, overlooking with his cold gaze, blonde hair, blue eyes. He asked for her name. She asked who he was, and then he asked if her mother's name was Lily. Blondina was surprised he knew her mother. As he grabbed her face to look at it, he thought the resemblance to Lily was striking. He told her his name was Trige Rian Havarti Ates, the Emperor of Ates, and her father. At the Imperial Palace, the maid woke up Princess Blondina to enter, and Blondina responded, "Yes, ma'am," then went, "Oops," because she was a much higher station now. After that night, having followed her so-called father to the palace, she was taught royal etiquette. Other than lessons, nothing really changed about her life. She was still trapped. The maid told Blondina she was invited to have tea with her father in the Emperor's garden, and thinking about the Emperor, Blondina thought it was strange. She was on the way to meet her father, so why wasn't she happy? Walking about the castle, she took notice of the many leopard statues, and flinched, seeing a really scary one. It reminded her of Nordy. Stepping into the garden, she tried to reassure herself it was okay, that no one would beat her. She thanked her father for the invitation to the tea party, and he simply commanded, "Approach." As she moved forward, he was glad she remembered her lessons on royal etiquette at least. Her siblings, Lart and Adelie, also stared with cold gaze. He just wished her eyes were as golden as her hair, and told her to keep in mind she need not ever divulge the fact that she descended from a commoner, to instead inform those who asked that she was frail, and that she spent her childhood recuperating at another kingdom, having just returned. Whether others believed or not, that was the only truth. Blondina could see this was a warning for her to know her place, so she complied. Her father smirked, glad that her humble origins did not make her stupid. He then said, "Welcome to the palace, my daughter," and hearing these words caused her to clench her dress. With the ordeal over, Blondina let off a sigh of relief. She wouldn't have peace though, hearing her brother say, "Hey, commoner, Blondina was it? Ha!" As she bowed towards him, he went on, "You're pretty well-mannered for a stupid peasant. Bowing left and right without hesitation. Where did you learn that? A wash house? Or a barn? Perhaps you were taught by an insect." Oh my god. Guys, there's nothing more that I hate than pompous, spoiled brats who lack self-awareness of the privilege they've been given. As Lart broke out in laughter, Blondina retorted, "Insects cannot teach humans. Didn't you know that?" Lart got pissed that Blondina talked back to him. He couldn't believe a dirty little street urchin like her made fun of royalty. She didn't understand though. She never made fun of him. This made him more angry. he would not accept a commoner as part of the royal family. He began to swear to ruining her life, but she cut him off quickly by saying she was sorry. Trying to walk off, Adelaide would reprimand her next, telling Blondina if she insulted Lart again, she'd regret it. Blondina plainly responded that all she did was stand and watch Lart get angry and point fingers at her, that she wasn't the one who made a fuss. Adelaide then hit her with the royal Karen line. Are you implying that Lart was the one causing a scene? Blondina knew. Well, yeah, but if she actually said that, things would get worse. So, she decided to play nice and just smile and accept whatever they told her. She thought the siblings were a strange duo, and if she minded her own business, she wouldn't have to run into them again. Suddenly hearing a cat meowing, she tried to look for where it was coming from. Rustling through the bushes, her eyes widened to the sight of a purple-eyed cat that was bleeding. She tried to reach to pet it. I'm not a cat, said the clearly cat-looking creature. Blondina awed over the talking cat, but the cat again said he wasn't one. She gushed over how cute he was, and the cat felt like he was talking to a wall. She asked if he hurt his leg, and he told her it was none of her business. Blondina looked up, seeing a broken branch, and realized he must have fallen from there. Then saw two other cats that got startled, and they jumped away into the bushes. She figured those yellow cats must have bullied this black kitty. She told them to come over, and as they meowed, she gave them a scolding, telling them not to gang up on others, because that was a petty, nasty thing to do. One of them answered, he bit their tails, and the black cat hissed. It was only because they both jumped him from behind. They argued he was so strong, it didn't hurt when they bit him, and ran off. What a ridiculous sight to witness. Blondina then told the black kitty to come with her, because she'd fix him up. And he told her no. Why should he follow some strange human he didn't know? She told him her full name, Blondina Rion Ates. But he just turned. He wasn't interested in knowing. Reaching out, she asked if he wouldn't be her friend, because she was all alone. Her mother passed away, her newfound father didn't seem to care much for her, and even her half-siblings despised her. She pleaded for him to be her friend. Hearing her situation made him think back to the people shunning him as the descendant of the divine beast who killed their god. They also pushed him into being all alone. He suddenly hopped up and onto her lap. She was happy, and he was very tsundere, going, make no mistake, after you treat me, I'm going home. And despite him snuggling up, he told her this didn't mean they were friends. Wow, this guy really is a cat personified. She held him close and began to cry, and the cat didn't understand why. A man then called for the princess, and seeing his imposing figure, she squeezed onto the cat to the point he couldn't breathe. When he turned towards her, he didn't expect to see her scared and trembling. He then looked back and gave the man a smirk, and the man gasped, bowing to the floor, going, greetings, O member of the divine leopard clan. Blondina didn't know what that was. The cat suddenly jumped from her arms and transformed, making her eyes widen, seeing the face of a dark-skinned boy with eyes and hair resembling his cat form. She was taken aback with him cockily saying, I told you I wasn't a cat. Meow, meow. I can't believe you haven't liked this video and subscribed to my channel yet. Huh? Is that what you want from me? You want me to be a femboy cat? You want me to clown around and entertain you? Well, I'll do it if you promise to watch my videos. Please check out my Manhwa recap playlist if you liked this one. If you do, I'll be a good cat boy. Meow. And if you subscribe, I might even lick. Okay, back to the video. Meow. Concerned about his leg, he said it did hurt a bit, and she thought his ambivalent reactions were cute. The other man saw the boy as the cruelest of the divine leopard clan, the black leopard. Although young, his physical abilities were far superior to those of humans. Side-eye glaring, the boy asked the man what his business was with the princess. This got her heart beating. The man was here on the emperor's orders to deliver the royal bracelet. And so he did, then hurriedly took off. The boy was eager to see how Blondina felt, finding out his real identity. And with her answering he was really pretty, that's not what he wanted. He wanted her to acknowledge his greatness. Sparkling with glee, she thought he was indeed amazing transforming from human to cat. But he was fixated on the fact she was more afraid of that overgrown doofus rather than his noble self. He could tear out the man's beating heart with one hand. But even so, Blondina pointed out the man's larger size. The boy did a with annoyance and turned a cat, hopping onto Blondina, commanding her to carry him since he was injured. Inside, he told her his name was Amon Akin. She told him to call her Bridie, because that's what her mom used to call her. I am reading the official translation, but did the author mean Blondie? Korean manhwa authors need to study up on naming lexicon. Bandaging him up, she was thankful he didn't seem hurt too badly. As a shinsu, he healed much quicker than humans. Noticing the sun had already set, Blondina asked Amon if he was really okay to go back out now. And so, he flopped onto her bed, saying he'd just sleep here. He then asked how she could be okay with this, since she didn't even know him. But, simply put, in her eyes, he was a cute cat. He again spoke tsundere, saying, I'm only sleeping here because you were nice enough to treat my injury. It is probably the first time a divine beast ever deigned to sleep in a human dwelling. Blondina hopped on the bed as well, asking why, and we learned divine beasts despised humankind. They stunk of deceit and foolishness. Blondina started sniffing herself, wondering if he could smell that on her too. But no, he thought she was fine. Through idle chatter, we learned she's 11 and he's 9. So she pointed out that she was older, making him smugly respond, older? That's ridiculous. Blondina asked why he wasn't in adult form, being a 9-year-old cat, and he explained his kind were different from regular leopards. They turned adult around 18 or 19. How conveniently humanish. Beginning to pet him, he jolted up, screeching not to touch him. Blondina apologized for upsetting him, but he looked away with flushed face, saying he wasn't. He just felt a certain way from her touch. Either way, he told her not to pet him again. After that day, Amon frequented the detached palace Blondina resided in, with him saying, I'm only visiting to eat your delicious human food. He always had a different excuse for visiting, and was always prickly in demeanor, but she was happy to see him. Where the king met with his servant, he was disappointed yet again, hearing the woman they found with blonde hair and golden eyes did not react to the magic stone. Thinking about Blondina, he saw her mother, although she didn't inherit Lily's golden eyes. While Lily had both golden hair and eyes, she did not possess any special powers, but he still fell in love with her. He didn't care about the purity of the bloodline, he just wanted to protect her and their baby. But in order to do so, he needed the power of the throne. He had no choice but to leave her, and she vowed to wait for him. He left her his ring, promising to return. Like the saying, out of sight, out of mind. As he clawed his way up to the throne, his feelings for her began to fade, and his time with Lily became nothing more than a fleeting memory. After all, he was always destined for a life in the palace. Becoming emperor, he focused on finding every golden-eyed blonde in the empire, and the power they possessed was the only thing that could make those treacherous divine beasts kneel before the throne. He especially wanted the beautiful divine leopards, who always regarded the royal family with contempt. The maid came in with the dice Blondina requested, and also Lucy arrived. Lucy Harai was the daughter of a count, and she became Blondina's lady-in-waiting 3 months ago, and being the same age, they quickly became dear companions in this lonely palace. When she saw Amon, she also thought he was just a cute cat, but noticing the transformation stone on his forehead, she paled and dropped immediately to the floor, greeting him as a member of the Divine Leopard clan. She was so scared then, but that didn't last with her seeing how friendly Blondina was with him. After a few months, she loved the little leopard to death, and always came with cookies for him, even though she was still afraid. Since it had been 15 days since his last visit, she asked where Amon's been. The two talked about his adorable mannerisms, including his shiny coat of black fur and sparkling eyes. His paw approached their dice, and they were happy to see him, but that quickly turned to shock, seeing him with something in his mouth. Lucy squealed in horror seeing the dead sparrow. She quickly dipped out, and Amon asked if Blondina was scared of sparrows by chance. And she told him she wasn't, she just felt bad for it being dead. And so, Amon told the little birdie to get up, pressing onto the sparrow, that if he continued to play dead, he'd make it a reality. The bird sprung up, saying, "Yes, sir!" And with Amon commanding him to play with Blondina, he complied, telling her he feigned death, not because he didn't like her, but because he was in pain. Also, he was too lazy to come here. Seeing the sparrow chirp and jump around, Amon was quite proud of himself. He began to purr with Blondina's touch, and explained he was gone visiting the sacred mountain. Beginning to tell her he needed to go there for his strength, he stopped himself. He was always answering her questions without thinking. We learned the sparrow was not a divine beast, but Amon gave him some power, allowing him to speak. The sparrow touted himself to be quite a bit more clever than his peers. Amon would glare at him, and then ask Blondina if she liked his gift. She did, and asked for the sparrow's name, but he didn't have one. So she named him Magetto, and he hopped with glee. On another day, Amon was hissing with Blondina trying to put a hat on him. Earlier, he told her he wanted to join her to watch the archery contest. She wondered why, since he said he had no interest in human activities. Apparently, the weak humans were able to drive away the beasts with weapons. He wanted to check out their destructive force and see if they really were that powerful. Blondina needed him to put the hat on so she could tell everyone he was her pet. If they saw the transformation stone on his head, the jig would be up. She suggested he just attend as himself, but he knew if other divine beasts saw him, word would get out and things would get annoying. And even though Blondina wasn't a blonde-haired, golden-eyed, she might become a target for the Shinsu leopards, who hated those with that trait. He could ignore the complaints that came from the uptight elders, but it might become more difficult to freely roam the palace as he did now. Magello tried to compliment his look with the hat, and Amon screeched that he'd end the dumb bird right now. At the hunting ground, the emperor graced with his 2 children behind him. Amon asked Blondina why she wasn't walking with them, and she told him the main character usually needed to make a grand solo entrance. The emperor called for the contest to begin, and the contestants shot their arrows at some birds. Magetto hoped sparrow shooting contests weren't a thing. He thought humans were so cruel. Amon was bored. He asked the meaning of this useless human activity. Blondina answered that there probably was no meaning. It was for entertainment, no different than when he played with a ball of yarn. She suggested they the trees next, since it wouldn't be much different from looking at arrows. Blondina took notice of some ants crawling up a tree, and suggested he climb up. Suddenly, an arrow shot into the tree, barely missing Blondina's head. She dropped down, as Lart stepped forward, saying, "Look who's here. Blondina, it's you." Amon could hear her heart thumping. Lart continued to chastise her, and Amon responded by tackling him to the ground. Changing forms, he stepped on Lart, making the prince beg him for mercy. "How dare you, you lowly piece of," Amon said with immense anger. "How dare a lowly human like you threaten something that's mine? You know how weak humans are, right? Hit one with an arrow, and they will die. Yet, you aimed and fired an arrow at Blondina." Lart squealed, gasping for breath, saying he didn't realize it was Blondina, as Amon was crushing his sternum with his foot. "You didn't know, you say? Of course, of course. It's possible that you had no idea. You know what? I don't know either. Just how much force I need to apply for you to die." Lart begged for his life, apologizing, pleading. Magetto squawked not to let the boy off easy, because those humans killed pigeons too. Blondina stood horrified, thinking about all the times Nordy abused her. Suddenly grabbing Amon, he asked if she was scared and if he should stop. She told him that wasn't it, but just in case, he should target parts of Lart's body where bruises wouldn't be readily visible. Amon was taken aback with Blondina reasoning what Lart did wasn't right, but killing him was too harsh. Roughing would be enough. Amon smirked. He kicked the prince over, telling him if he tried to get revenge on Bridie for what happened, that day would be his last on Earth. And with the prince agreeing, Amon told him, "Good boy," transforming back into a cat and taking his leave. Amon got affectionate with Blondina, telling her to hold him because he was her cute little beast. Carrying him away, she told him he looked so cool stepping on Lart and threatening him, and Amon promised he could do even better next time. "Slam! Those damned arrogant divine beasts!" Lart was pissed, expressing his anger at the event to his sister. Adelaide told him he was an embarrassment and needed to stop being reckless. If he had shot their pathetic sister, word would have spread like wildfire. She knew it wasn't his fault. He just wanted to teach that brat a lesson, and warned him not to bother Blondina when the divine beast was around. She promised to exact revenge for her dear brother, thinking even those beasts must have a weakness or two. She'd visit her father shortly after, and he sympathized, seeing something was on her mind. She wept into his arms, explaining she was studying the history of their empire yesterday, and became saddened. Their family built the empire, yet they could do nothing about those brutish divine leopards. Emperor Trige comforted his daughter, thinking they were so alike in many ways, which is why he thought it wouldn't be a bad idea to have an empress inherit the throne. Adelaide was shocked, enamored by the idea she could be ruling empress. Her father explained that to rise above, they must find the descendant of their god. For divine leopards, no sword or spear could defeat them, and arrows merely bounced off their skin. The only ones that could face them in the past was the first god and their descendant, Barahan. She was a god born from both humans and divine beasts. 500 years ago, a descendant of Barahan appeared, and although they were killed by a divine black leopard, they bore a child. So, their descendant was likely out there somewhere. Trish told his daughter if she were to find the descendant of Barahan, she would become the next ruler of their great empire. The girls would watch as Amon struggled, trying to stop himself from playing with a simple ball of yarn, and failing. While Magetto tried to help him, they could see Amon was having a really good time. He'd begin his pitter-patter towards them, asking Blondina to get it off of him. And with her smacking his butt for being too cute, he started hissing and scratching, threatening to eat her. Picking him up, she told him not to eat her. She probably tasted bad. All she ate was junk until she turned 11. Amon became quizzical hearing this, so she elaborated further that she ate leftovers from restaurants, or hard, moldy bread. Lucy probably tasted better. Lucy began to sob, saying she probably didn't taste good either. Their family fell on hard times, and it had been a while since they even had meat on the table. Blondina squeezed on Amon, saying his choice. Did he want her or Lucy? He joked, saying he'd reconsider after they fattened up a bit. He didn't like sinking his teeth into prey that was skin and bones. Pawing her face, he suddenly asked to hear Blondina's life story. She sighed, telling him she lived like any other commoner, penniless, eating bread that dropped on the ground. Amon pointed out she really didn't talk much about her life before entering the palace, and asked if it had something to do with how terrified she got whenever there were big, bulky men nearby. Blondina's hands trembled. Amon said, "You can tell me, Bridie. Tell me, and I'll destroy those torturous memories from your past." Even if it wasn't now, he'd be here for her whenever she was ready. They booped nose to nose. It was a promise. Later, Blondina headed to a party in the beautiful dress her father sent her. The people glared, speaking in hushed whispers, asking how she managed to get her dress. They thought she was walking around like she owned the place. Blondina could hear it all. She didn't know why they even bothered inviting her. The gossip switched to focus on the arrival of the shining son of the empire, Emperor Trish, entering the ballroom, greeting Adelaide and Lart. He was happy to see them. He felt like it had been forever, even though it had only been a week. He noticed Blondina some ways away in her blue dress, and asked the siblings if they'd been getting along with her. He told them to go talk to her, because it didn't look good for a royal princess to be standing alone. And so, their group came towards her. But just like they didn't like her, she didn't like them either. Adelaide brought up having heard Lionel received a new horse for his birthday. He was quite proud of it, since his sire was the winner of the previous equestrian competition. Adelaide turned towards Blondina to ask her thoughts, but with them not speaking the official language of the empire, she had no idea what they were saying. The friends continued to clamor at Blondina's expense, not including her in their conversations. Adelaide would be surprised to hear, as if Blondina understood them, before she decided to take off to the garden. Adelaide didn't know when in the world that brat learned Old Artesian. Philip, meanwhile, was curious about Blondina. He asked where she resided, since he's never seen her at the main palace. And Adelaide glared, questioning why he was so interested in her. He answered, her confidence. But Adelaide retorted it wasn't confidence, but the vulgarity of a dirty commoner. He considered paying her a visit regardless. As Blondina continued her walk out, she thought about how she didn't need to understand the language they were speaking to get what they were saying. Sitting down, she expressed that the pie was absolutely delicious, unlike anything she's ever tasted before. She teased, asking if Amon didn't want any, and he rushed over to start munching. He asked how she knew he was here, and she explained that she saw something move out the window. Turns out, it was a cute little kitten. She could tell he came because he was worried about her, despite him giving his usual excuse, saying he was just curious to see what human parties were like. She was actually struggling a bit back there, and squeezed him tight, thinking she was glad she had him on. She adored her cute, sighing cat. While Blondina and Lucy were playing chess, Blondina would get alerted she had a visitor. It was Philip, the son of Duke Rodson, meeting with the dashing young boy. He gave his greetings, and came bearing gifts. Blondina worried he was sent here by Adelaide to pick a fight with her. He then presented a ruby brooch for her, explaining his family discovered a huge gemstone recently in one of their mines. She asked why he was giving it to her, and he answered initially they made one for Princess Adelaide, but then remembered there was a second princess. Blondina felt strange. She was used to people looking down on her as a princess. Yet, here he was, treating her as Adelaide's equal. Amon would come jumping out, but Lucy caught him, putting his hat on so that Philip would be none the wiser about his identity. Philip then gave Blondina an invitation to his birthday. Amon would knock over Philip's other gift of flowers in response, and cause a commotion by biting Philip's leg. so he'd fall over. Blondina anxiously put Amon aside, telling Philip it seemed her cat was in a bad mood today, and that she'd think about attending his party. Blondina asked Amon what was up with him, and he smirked, going, "Huh? What did I do?" Amon angrily examined the jar of flowers, calling them a measly pile of weeds. Lucy explained the gift was quite expensive, containing rare, dried flowers, and this made him angrier. So angry, he clawed the vase to the point it shattered. Blondina freaked out, going to reach for him, checking to see if his paw was okay. He got more furious, wanting to know why the boy was giving her all these things, especially with her responding she didn't know why. She tried to pat and console her angry kitty, and then brought up the language of old Etesian being a symbol of nobility only passed down to members of the royal family and other nobles in spoken form. She couldn't possibly ask her father to teach her, and certainly not her siblings. Luckily, Amon offered to be her teacher. He was, of course, a great divine leopard, with the blood of ancient nobles running through his veins. Lucy would present the ink, quills, and parchment Blondina requested, and seeing Amon reach for the paper, Blondina thought of him getting ink on his paws and leaving little paw prints. The thought was so cute. Her imagination of him writing with an air of sophistication made her gush. However, he jumped down, switching to human form. Looking at her, he told Bridie to use him as she saw fit. He was ready to teach. Blondina stared at him in a daze, while Majito chirped about his dapper, handsome looks. Amon started scribbling some basic words for Blondina to memorize. Teacup, plate, and knife. Various basic words for tea parties. Blondina got a little awkward, nervously explaining she didn't know how to read, and apologized for being so uneducated. He smirked and tapped her face, telling her it was okay. She could just take her time learning the alphabet. She started blushing like crazy. Amon's vibe was so different from when he was in baby leopard form. He told her when he wasn't here to have Lucy teach her the basic Etesian alphabet, and noticed Blondina was very meek for some reason. He questioned if she was in awe from his devastating good looks, and figured it'd take her a while to get used to his human form, and transformed back into a kitten. Blondina was happy to see her adorable kitty, especially with him telling her to go on and pet him. She liked his human form too, but became way too flustered around him for some reason. Maybe she just wasn't used to seeing a boy as beautiful as him. The days went by as Blondina studied up. She aloud asked what some of these letters meant, and her father answered, "Garden." She was surprised to see him, and greeted him with respect quickly, calling her by nickname. He asked if she had any needs here, and she told him no, that everything was perfect. Touching her hair, he couldn't help but notice how much she resembled Lily. He supposed she must have remarried, having resided within a lord's castle while he was gone. He understood. She was a very beautiful woman. Blondina answered that her mother was not a lord's mistress. She never remarried, and said he was the only man she ever loved. As he stared unresponsive, she thought he knew nothing of her mother. Her mother often spoke of his elegance and beauty, and suspected he may have hidden his true identity from her. She couldn't deny him, however, because she was truly in love with him. She told Bridie that she was their precious child, born out of the love shared by the two of them. Blondina was angry that he dared question her mother's fidelity. She told him even though her mother was saddled with a child, and many men asked for her hand in marriage, she never wavered. They faced hardships, and she only thought of him, working hard to raise Blondina, even to the point of laying sick to death. She never forgot the man she loved. He really saw the resemblance now, responding, "Is that so?" Coming back to her room, she had Lucy get her ready for Philip's birthday. Feeling she would trouble Amon with his elders by inviting him to come with her, she told him she'd just go on her own, and he asked her why. Was it because she didn't want to be seen with a beast at a social event? He turned with a look of ambivalence, and she told him, "Amon, look at me. What do you mean? Why would I dislike being with you?" Again, he remembered the people shunning him away. He grumbled, beginning to say humans were all the same when it came to hating beasts, but then went, never mind. Blondina felt bad for leaving him, but she told Amon to have fun with Lucy today, and of course, he'd get distracted by Lucy tossing some yarn. Arriving at Philip's place, Blondina wondered if Lucy and Amon were having fun. They seemed to get along quite well, in contrast to her own constant squeezing and teasing of Amon. Lucy was always kind and gentle towards him. Was that why Amon was always so nice to Lucy? It hurt, thinking he might have answered who he'd choose if Lucy asked. Philip happily greeted greeted Blondina, while Adelaide did not seem so pleased. Lart pointed out Blondina had the same brooch as hers, causing Adelaide to shrink back. A gift from the Rodson family? Did that mean Philip acknowledged Blondina as her equal? She of course tried to maintain composure, giving backhanded compliments to Blondina, saying it looked surprisingly good on her, and she thought Blondina would only look good wearing cheap knockoffs. She started speaking to Philip in Old Etesian, telling him to make a choice next time for gifts. Either her or Blondina. This was a warning. She didn't want to ever acknowledge or spend time with her sister, eager to get them to like her, like a pathetic puppy. They'd be met with shock, as Blondina spoke the same language, telling Philip to just do as she said, and that also, she didn't need to rush over like a puppy to spend time with Adelaide. They were family, and if she had something to say, she could just say it to her face. Adelaide didn't have to trash her in a language she thought she didn't understand. Adelaide got so embarrassed, she decided to leave. Ha! That's what you get, you stupid bitch! Lark chased after his sister, and she lashed out, telling him to shut up, following that by apologizing and sighing. She was getting carried away. She knew as of now, Lark was still the official heir to the throne, and until she became empress, she had to feign support for him, while growing her influence behind his back. What a nasty girl. Being so young, of course, I'd put the blame on parentage, but I truly believe the world would be a better place if, as adults, people like this were sent to the gallows. Call me wicked, call me whatever. It's what I think. Oh man. The driver then alerted them that one of the carriage's wheels was broken. Shredded. There was no way a human could have done it. With Lart telling her it just wasn't her day, she lashed out at him again. Blondina apologized for what happened. Philip noticed she seemed surprisingly calm, and she told him this was nothing. She was used to dealing with things like this. Coming from a humble background, she was sure these people despised her, but just because they came from good families didn't give them the right to look down and insult her. Blondina's firm attitude blew Philip away. She was actually pretty satisfied with her life now, no longer starving, and she had a roof over her head. She didn't plan on threatening Adelaide's position, and had no interest in showing off just because she's become a princess. She wished Adelaide understood that, but from now on, she wanted Philip to refrain from coming to see her or inviting her to parties. She knew he meant well, but understood in Adelaide's eyes, she was probably encroaching on her territory. Philip just responded, "Yes, princess," with his heart beating rapidly in ways he couldn't understand. On another day, Blondina inquired a bit on the state of affairs between the humans and divine beasts. Magetto was useless, since sparrows didn't study history. So, Lucy explained that while divine beasts were powerful, humans outnumbered them. After a number of meaningless battles, both parties agreed to call it a truce. Despite there being a peace treaty, they didn't get along because of what happened 500 years ago. A descendant of Barahan, the only god who could control the divine beasts, appeared, and they made a deal with the royal family, who then began killing every divine beast they could find, massacring them to near extinction. It was then a divine beast who had just reached adulthood managed to kill Barahan's descendant. That divine beast was a black leopard. Like Amon, it frenzied during the battle and didn't stop killing after the descendant, but instead went on a killing spree. Mostly humans, but it even tried to kill the other members of the Divine Leopard clan. Humans and divine beasts had to come together to defeat it. The whole treaty was a very strained peace. Blondina had no idea. She just thought divine beasts were simply defenders of the empire. She wondered if that was why other baby leopards were picking on Amon that time. Shortly, the maid delivered Blondina another gift from Philip. In it contained a letter and a really nice, expensive bracelet. Magetto wanted it for himself. As Philip began his journey to study abroad, he thought she must have received his gift by now. He thought of the beautiful half-blood princess whose gaze was clear and direct. While thoroughly uneducated, she was also surprisingly self-assured. She became fluent in Old Etesian in months and put Adelaide in her place. It amused him. Pushing him away with a smile on her face was the most thrilling rejection he ever experienced. He never wanted to let go of that first spark of excitement in his otherwise hollow life. Once he returned to the Empire, he wanted to go to her. Even being gone for a few years, he wasn't concerned, because there was not a single man in this empire foolish enough to marry a princess without prestige or power. But he alone would be able to give Blondina his noble lineage and sizable power and wealth of his family. The poor princess, abandoned by her father and mistreated by her family, would be able to live happily ever after by his side. With his family's backing, she could even set sights on the throne. Philip's gotten everything he's ever wanted in life. He thought Blondina would be no different. Man, bro has no idea he's not the guy on the thumbnail. Checking out her new bracelet, Blondina was startled with Amon asking about it. He could tell she seemed pretty happy about it. But when he gave her Magetto, she screamed. Blondina wished she were rich. Then she'd be able to buy Amon a bejeweled collar. He didn't look happy and suddenly jumped up to get the bracelet off her wrist and ran off with it. A week passed since Amon ran off with her bracelet. Blondina wondered why, questioned why he wanted her bracelet. Was he not coming back because he felt bad for stealing it? She thought he shouldn't, because he was so much more precious to her than a bracelet. That night, she had a dream about a war. Someone telling Barahan to take this sword and fight for the humans. Blondina couldn't breathe. She felt like someone was crushing her and woke up to Amon. His soft, squishy paws felt so nice. From his mouth, Amon dropped a ring in her hand. She assumed he must have lost a bracelet and brought this as a replacement. It was a little too loose on her, so she decided to wear it on a necklace. She had one her father gave her recently. Amon suddenly told her not to meet with Philip anymore. He could give her presents and didn't want her accepting Philip's letters anymore. He wondered why she wasn't answering and asked if it was him or Philip. Blondina made the excuse that Philip was the son of a duke and probably more powerful than her, so she couldn't necessarily turn things away. But Amon didn't have to worry, since Philip was studying abroad. This got the little cat a smirking. Lucy then came by with some plants she heard cats liked. Amon immediately took one of the twigs away and started joyously playing with it, rolling around and chewing. Blondina suddenly asked him, "Me or that branch?" And his eyes widened. He put it down and transformed, resting his head on her lap, responding, "Of course it's you, Bridie." And her jaw dropped. She called him a liar, saying he was really into that branch earlier, but he assured her, "No, Bridie, it's you, only you." This made shivers run down her spine. Ates recently signed a trade agreement with the kingdom of Sicilla. In commemoration, the prince and several nobles of Sicilla had made an official visit to Ates. While it wasn't a major event, the entire royal family had gathered to greet the guests. Emperor Trige glanced towards his children as the dignitaries spoke of their gracefulness. One of Sicilla's snakes slithered on Adelai's foot, startling her into stepping back. Sicilla's prince assured her these snakes didn't bite people and were smarter than humans. But, with Trige noticing Blondina's calmness towards the snake approaching her, he smirked, complimenting her that she's truly become a royal. Adelaide felt this was so unfair. She assumed Blondina was only unafraid because she was used to living on the streets. Adelaide would get her father's attention by garnering sympathy, and he held her close, promising to keep her safe. Blondina did feel good to get his approval, but she still felt like an outsider of this family. She suddenly noticed Amon's ears poking above the window and wondered if he was worried that she was going to be ignored or made fun of, like before. She thought he was so unique. He acted moody and cranky all the time, but still made sure she was okay, like family. She wondered what the real meaning of family was. Stepping outside, Amon told her he got bored after she left and came here. Blondina was moved and suddenly grabbed to hold him close. Later, while Lucy and Blondina were having a picnic, Lart was nearby on horseback, and he took particular notice of Lucy. Sometime earlier, Lart's mother was scolding him for not controlling his emotions better. While having tea with some other nobles, a man slyly insulted him for not being able to speak Old Etesian too well, and he splashed his tea at them. He argued they were in the wrong, and his mother sighed, reminding him even so, the prince of an empire should not react by throwing tea around like some common ruffian. Taking some time to reflect, he was still annoyed at these nobles, always uttering empty words of flattery to his face, while jeering and ridiculing him behind his back. From around the corner, he overheard Lucy and Blondina's maid talking. The maid was looking to transfer out, and she even recommended Lucy leave as soon as she could. Lart saw what was going on here. Servants were ranked according to the position of the people they worked under. Considering Blondina's position, it was only natural the maid would want to work somewhere else. He thought whether it was nobles or servants, they were all the same, only sticking around to take advantage of you and stab you in the back as soon as they were done. During dinner, he continued to think about Lucy, thinking all she had to offer was her integrity and loyalty to Blondina. And a pretty face? Ooh. He turned, questioning what he was just thinking. At night, he laid in bed, thinking about how she moved with understated grace, had a soft smile that always played about her lips, the slight lowering of her eyes whenever she addressed him as prince. He was freaking out. He couldn't believe he was crushing on her. He couldn't afford to be, since he was already under constant threat from Adelaide, who clearly had sights on becoming empress. He needed to be with someone who had the power and influence to help him secure the throne, all because marriage for royals was nothing but a card to be played on the negotiation table. Turning back to the picnic day, Lucy excitedly told Blondina about an upcoming national horseback riding competition. Blondina had never ridden before, and so Lucy showed her a place to practice nearby. As the two observed the place, Lark quickly turned away, noticing Lucy. Amon didn't understand what was so great about riding on a horse. They were nothing special compared to his kiddie dance moves. They laughed together, but in this brief moment, Blondina took this as Amon really wanting to impress Lucy. They suddenly got startled by Lark shouting in pain. He fell off his horse and sprained his ankle getting distracted by Lucy. They came over rushing to his side, and while he told them not to fuss over it, Lucy quickly picked him up. She then had him sit down, and while she did some emergency first aid, his heart was racing. He again tried to get away after being treated, but she just took him on her shoulder. In bed that night, his conflicted feelings continued. He remembered his father telling him a future emperor could not indulge in such frivolities as love. He didn't know what to do. He was totally falling for Lucy. 9 years passed uneventfully, and Lucy helped Blondina put on her new shoes. Blondina's outgrown all her old ones. She was wondering when Amon would grow up, and he was sure he'd get bigger eventually. That night, Lucy came into her room, reminding her she wanted to go see the glow-in-the-dark mushrooms. But there, she'd spot a man she hadn't seen before, and noticing his gemstone, he slyly shushed her. Amon caressed Blondina's face and played with her hair. He'd definitely grown up too. Where Amon was resting, the great elder Aisha would visit him, asking who he decided on to observe his coming-of-age ritual. He basically answered Blondina in a roundabout way, using the excuse that since royals looked down on them, forcing one to visit the forest would show them who was really in charge. Shortly after, Amon would have to go through the ceremonial duel to decide on the new leader. They hadn't had one since his mother died 10 years ago. Aisha reminded him not to kill his opponent. She was somewhat worried he'd frenzy, but he assured her if it ever got to that point, he'd just forfeit on the spot. At the palace, Emperor Trige was troubled, since the Divine Leopard clan requested that he send his firstborn to serve as an observer for their upcoming ritual. He didn't feel comfortable sending Blondina to a beast ceremony. The Empress made excuses that they couldn't risk antagonizing the beasts, but also admitted she was relieved they didn't have to send their children. This got Trige to glare. He reminded her that Blondina was also his child, and the eldest Princess Ates gracefully arrived to meet with them, surprised to learn the request of the Beast Clan, but responded she accepted with a solemn coldness. Adelaide was pissed, having heard this from her maid. Not only was Blondina hogging all of her father's attention these days, but now she was upstaging her with the divine beasts too. She commanded her servant to keep a close eye on Blondina. She wanted any opportunity she could to teach her a lesson. While Blondina was placing Amon's paw prints on letters, he explained she would be sitting next to him during the ritual. She was having a lot of fun with his paws. She wished he had given her a heads up first about this whole thing. She was so shocked when the Emperor suddenly summoned her to explain, with him telling her he'd take care of everything. She teased that it almost sounded like a marriage proposal, getting him to blush like crazy. She then brought up Lucy was currently receiving bridal lessons, and Amon jumped, curious about it. Blondina stared at him, thinking, "Wow, Amon, you're totally overreacting." His interest in Lucy irritated her for some reason. He asked why they got married so early, and Blondina explained it was because they were adults now. Apparently, divine beasts didn't mate as early as humans did. He began to mutter to himself that the purpose of mating was to have children, but they needed to go into heat first. Of course, they could happen before that. He wondered if Bridie would be okay with that. She thought he was totally acting weird. Was it because he was 18 now? 3 days later, Trige would see his daughter off before she left, wishing her safe travels. She felt a complicated array of emotions from this unexpected send-off. The other cats were so curious about Amon's observer. Many of them had never seen a human before. The ritual began shortly, with the participants being 3 baby leopards. The mature beasts surrounded them and used their sharp fangs to draw blood from their own bodies, which they then smeared on the foreheads of the baby leopards. And with that, Amon, Shanti, and Hala were congratulated on becoming official members of the Divine Leopard clan. The cats roared, and with Amon approaching Blondina, he'd be met with surprise, seeing her fall to the floor, shaking. The terrifying beast triggered Blondina's trauma, but Amon pawing would snap her out of it. She blushed, staring at him, and held him close, thinking she was safe with him. She congratulated Amon and asked what was next. The other cats stared, and Amon got nervous, telling his clan members she was tired, so he'd put her to bed. He knew he shouldn't be so chummy with her here. Blondina was amazed seeing Amon's beautiful home. He told her she could wash up in the bathroom as he plopped on the bed, and with her starting to loosen up her shoulder straps, he started freaking out, wondering why she was stripping here. She actually intended to undress in the bathroom, but seeing him so flustered, she really wanted to tease. Looking at him with bedroom eyes, she went, "Amon, why are you acting so embarrassed?" After all, he was naked too, only being covered in black fur. He glared, telling her if she kept this up, he'd stay naked in his human form too. This got her to chuckle. She hadn't seen it in a while. His raven black hair and beautiful violet eyes with shapely pink lips. She thought of his human form as ethereally beautiful. But at 20 years old, she was confident she wouldn't blink an eye, even if Amon stripped right in front of her. She told him whatever, and went off to wash. He sighed, thinking she didn't even know why he couldn't transform into his human form in front of her. He was trying so hard to hold himself back. While they were lying in bed together, he asked Blondina who was it that traumatized her. She explained as a child, she chose to work at an inn as a means of survival. It was either that, or be sold off to some creep. The innkeeper knew that very well, and no matter what he did, she wouldn't be able to leave her job. He knocked her around, like one would kick a pebble lying on the street. Her 8th birthday was the worst. A friendly neighbor gave her a cookie for her birthday. Nordy smacked her for smiling so brightly. He needed her to greet their guests that way, but all she usually wore was her gloomy expression. As soon as she got home, she ate the cookie, not even bothering to wipe the blood running down her nose. It was covered in sand, so it hurt her teeth when she bit into it, but it was still delicious. Amon suddenly told her they should go back there so she could face her fears, that she needed to see in person how weak and powerless that man really was. She began to weep, and he told her once she's overcome her fears, he'd show her the real him. After she fell asleep, he continued to watch over her, declaring he'd do whatever it takes to become the clan leader. Riding out the next day, a group of men would suddenly approach them. These bandits were looking to mug Blondina, threatening to strip her down and take all her wares. They thought this would be a tough job, since it was from a noble, but were now confident just seeing one girl on her own. Amon told Blondina to dismount, then commanded the horse to have some fun. The horse steamrolled through the bandits. Daisy was a proud horse, born of the sacred mountain, who really seemed to be enjoying herself. Looking at one of the fallen men behind her, Blondina would take notice of his golden eyes. This was the first time she'd seen a person with golden eyes other than her mom. They arrived at her hometown, a place filled with treasured memories of her mother, and the place that continued to haunt her in her nightmares. Seeing her trembling, Amon told her to hold him, and she felt warmth from her bad-tempered, yet kind-hearted cat. A man greeted her. Blondina recognized him as Hans, the youngest son of the cobbler who lived at the end of the alley. It was clear he didn't recognize her, because with a simple greeting back, he was blown away by her beauty. Entering the only inn in town, she was welcomed by Nordy. She saw he didn't recognize her either. It made sense, since she was no longer the weak little girl he used to beat on. She couldn't believe she was ever terrified by this pathetic, sniveling coward. His wife recognized Blondina, and Nordy began to scoff. He heard she was the daughter of some nobleman, but there were also rumors she'd been sold off to human traffickers. He grabbed her hand, saying he knew her type. Thinking now that she spent some time with nobility, she thought she could act all high and mighty, but with nowhere else to go, she came back crawling here. Blondina pulled her hand free and smacked him cold in the face. He got pissed. He was about to swing on her, but she told him, go ahead, if he wasn't afraid of the consequences. She told him it was so strange he wasn't moving, since he used to beat her in the past. Following that up with, he probably never considered regretting the abuse he committed towards her, and that she was considering punishing a particularly vile and unscrupulous vulgarian. She asked if he thought she could, and he froze with chills. He then bowed, begging for forgiveness, and she told him she wouldn't. Taking her room, she fell to the floor with a huge weight off her shoulders. She was thankful Amon helped her with this, but he was thinking he should kill them anyway. As the wife was cooking for Blondina, she wondered why she was even enduring this embarrassment. Blondina had her make another new batch, despite this already being the third plate she's turned away. The woman thought she was so ungrateful, considering they were the ones who took her in. Nordy was laughing, however, since Blondina told him she had a gift for them, a special present, just for the two of them. Sometime earlier, she went to Jack's, the man who owned the mortgage rights to Nordy's inn, and she bought it with a flashy jewel. She showed Nordy and his wife the deed, and now, being the rightful owner, told them to vacate the premises. She planned to give this inn as a gift to her maid, as a thank you for all her hard work. Nordy pleaded with Blondina, because if she kicked them out, they'd have nowhere to go. Blondina scoffed, thinking about the day she started crying because she felt unwell and asked for the day off. But all he did was tell her to get back to work, unless she wanted to be sold off. She told them to pack up all their things and be prepared to leave tomorrow, before heading to bed. That night, Nordy planned to kill her in her sleep. He was going to do it slowly and painfully, but was startled by Amon saying, "Yes, that's more like it." Nordy turned to see Amon aura farming on the windowsill. The next morning, Amon nibbled on Blondina's ear, telling her he was hungry. Downstairs, she'd find the innkeeper's wife panicking as she told the police she found her husband's blood everywhere. The officer told Blondina that Nordy was attacked last night. It looked like an armed robbery, but they weren't certain yet. The wife came crawling to Blondina, begging her not to kick them out. But then, Blondina remembered another time she was sick, asking to go home for the day, and the wife hit her, telling Blondina to go do the dishes. Blondina warned the woman that if she was truly seeking revenge, both she and Nordy would be dead. They should be lucky she was only taking their inn. They reaped what they sowed. Ah, so satisfying. Returning home, Lart had to ask her how the ritual went. He wanted to know if it was true that divine beasts were as large as boulders, and was sad he didn't get to go, even though he was the heir apparent. He couldn't understand why a half-blood royal like her was invited, and she told him because she was friends with the divine beast. Lart contemplated this. Blondina was protected by beasts, and Adelaide was a constant threat with her wit. He wondered if he'd even be able to succeed the throne. Trige came by to greet her on her return, and suddenly grabbed her face, asking if the divine beasts treated her with respect. He smiled, seeing she looked more and more like her mother with each passing day, and pat her head. Adelaide was shaking as a witness to the whole thing. Her father's warm gaze and touch. Before, it was all hers. She hated that he was giving it to that half-blood witch. She wondered how Blondina returned without a scratch. Did the thugs she ordered not do their job? She needed to find out. That night, Blondina kept thinking about how she wouldn't be able to see her cute little leopard for a month. He had to prepare himself for the final battle to determine who would become clan leader. He didn't seem worried, but she didn't want him to get hurt. Blondina would take Lucy to go pick some mushrooms in the Divine Beast Forest to keep herself busy. They'd see Lart standing by, and with Lucy grazing herself before him, he gave her a simple hello back. Blondina noticed he's been coming quite often these days, and speculated he's taken a liking to Lucy after the incident back then. She wasn't surprised. Lucy was so warm and kind. He took their basket, deciding to go with them. While the girls were picking mushrooms, the prince inadvertently insulted Blondina by calling her a dirty commoner who knew all about mushrooms, having scavenged the mountains for food. Lucy got teary-eyed with her master being insulted, and Blondina had her ace, telling Lart he could only continue joining them if he apologized. Bro immediately folded and said he was sorry. Blondina could see he must really want to spend time with Lucy, and was surprised he lowered his pride. So, she had him carry the basket. Continuing to wander, Blondina noticed something felt off in an unusual way. It was eerily quiet here. No sound of birds or insects. Heading back, they heard some rustling in the bushes, and Lart guarded the girls, shielding them with his sword. He blamed himself for not stopping the two of them from coming here. This was the first time Blondina felt he was like a real brother to her. Out from the bushes, a black bear began to growl. Blondina told Lart to take Lucy and run left, while she ran right. The bear roared, and Blondina blitzed, shouting Amon's name. The bear came her way, and she fell to the ground. She closed her eyes, wishing she had done more for her beloved kitty. She heard a loud slam, and saw a black panther standing atop the bear. This was Amon? Earlier, Amon had just defeated Shanti and Hala, telling them to surrender. He heard Blondina call him, and came as fast as he could. Opening his jaw, preparing to rip the bear to shreds, he stopped with Blondina telling him not to. He questioned why, and she reminded him he promised he wouldn't kill unnecessarily. He came up and licked her face, saying, "Bridie, you're hurt." He asked why she was here. The magic of the forest was unstable right now. Going to find Lart and Lucy, Amon tossed Lart to the side, asking why they were together when Bridie was all alone. He asked Lucy if she was okay, and this made Blondina sad. He was being so nice to Lucy, as she suspected. Amon liked Lucy. Wrong. Your assessment is so wrong. Please. Returning back, Amon told Blondina he was sleeping with her tonight. Seeing her startled, he asked if she was afraid. She told him that wasn't it, and he tapped her hand, telling her it was too late to be afraid. He had no intention of being apart from her, because she belonged with him. He thumped his tail, stern about sleeping here tonight, and she gushed. Her cute, lovable leopard may look grown up, but he was still the Amon she knew. While taking a bath, she thought about how Amon barely saved her. He was the only thing on her mind at the moment. She thought it wasn't fair he grew up to be so dashing. It gave her butterflies in her stomach. Lying in bed, thinking about his tenderness towards Lucy, she asked Amon if he liked her by chance. And now she thought she was such a fool for not realizing how Amon felt about her lady-in-waiting until now. Only now did Blondina understand why she loved spending time with him, why he always made her heart race. It wasn't because of friendship, it was love. She wondered how she could get this big kitty cat to love her back. With them staring at each other too long, Amon turned, getting too flustered. Blondina considered wrapping herself up in those tree branches he was so obsessed with. During an 8's family tea, Emperor Trige would give Lart a scolding for getting careless in the Divine Beast Forest, chasing a deer. Prior to this, Lart told Blondina he'd take the blame for everything. He felt bad because Blondina risked her life to save him, and he wanted to help in return. Plus, everyone saw him as kind of an idiot, so they'd get in less trouble if he was at fault. Man, this is some good character development. Lart clamored on about if his father did indeed send the knights for them, they would have been able to taste the delicious raspberries that grew there. Having heard they were accompanied by a divine beast, Blondina gave the excuse she made friends with them at the ceremony. Trige thought this was perfect. He could use Blondina to improve their relationship with the beasts. He asked her to invite the beast to the palace, and Adelaide took notice. Watching her father warm up to Blondina, and Blondina and Lart acting chummy, this was all making Adelaide crash out internally. Lart then brought up Philip returning from his study abroad, and Blondina took note of this. Sometime later, Blondina asked Lucy who she liked better, Amon or Lart. Lucy answered Amon, but Blondina followed up with, if both of them confessed to her, who would she choose? And Lucy answered, Prince Lart. All the while, Adelaide was torturing men in the dungeon. The golden-eyed bandit begged for her to spare him. If he was a descendant of Barahan, she could take care of her sister once and for all. Magetto just couldn't understand. If Lucy liked Amon, why would she choose Lart over him? Lucy plainly answered that Amon was a divine beast, and the beasts didn't see humans as their equals, more like prey. And while she liked, respected, and admired Amon, she didn't have any romantic feelings towards him. That night, Blondina thought, poor Amon. The bottom line was, Lucy didn't like him. Was this unrequited love? She was startled, seeing he was right beside her, and then welcomed him home. Going in to hold him tight, she still thought of him as her dear kitten. He was a little hot. She wondered if he was ill, but he told her not to worry about it. He'd then reveal he was now the leader of the divine beasts, and not even the elders could tell him what to do. Her heart started pounding every time Amon got close. But if her feelings changed and his hadn't, she wondered how long she had to disguise and hide how she felt inside. Returning to the capital, Philip took notice of how different things looked. The roads were remodeled, and there was a new central clock tower. Despite that, the only thing he thought about was Blondina, her confident gaze, a princess without a single mean bone in her body. He thought of her as a tragic princess, tainted by commoners' blood, and he'd be her savior. On another morning, Lart would shyly ask Blondina to give Lucy the day off. Lucy came in, and Lart was startled. It was an awkward pause with the two in front of each other. He asked her out to the opera, and she went flush, asking if he was talking to her. Blondina was a little jealous over their budding love. She hoped Amon didn't see the two, but what was the point of worrying? Regardless of Amon's feelings towards Lucy, they could never be together, being human and beast. She sighed, uttering beasts and humans were never meant to be together anyway. Amon suddenly appeared, asking what she was talking about. He started to growl. asking why they couldn't. Anything was possible. Why else did she think he fought so hard to become the leader of the divine beasts? She calmed him down, and with him lying down again, he flinched, asking what she was doing lying on him. She wondered if his temper has gotten worse as an adult. He suddenly asked if she was still afraid of him, but no, because he was still a Mon, she could never be afraid of him. He suddenly sprung up and broke through the door, charging out. 2 weeks passed since he took off, and she missed him. On this day, though, she'd be greeted by Philip visiting. He got down on one knee, offering a bouquet, asking how she's been. Magetto chirped, questioning if this was a proposal or something, and asked if he was out of his mind. Blondina would quickly toss the little sparrow away, and Philip was none the wiser about a talking bird. He tried his best to hang out with Blondina, but she thought it'd be trouble with Magetto potentially trying to interrupt again. She made the excuse she was busy today, something Philip wasn't expecting. He apologized, and told her next time, he'd be sure to make an appointment beforehand. Blondina could see his clear intentions. After all, she was now of marriageable age, but she wanted to focus on getting a Mon to like her. Then, start planning a future where divine beasts and humans could be together. She suddenly heard scratching at the door, and Amon peeked his head in. She'd suddenly hold him close, and he'd smell something unusual on her. Finding the vase of flowers Philip gave her, he swiped his paw and promptly destroyed it. Growling, he told her he didn't like others encroaching on his territory. It made him want to tear their throats out. He told her if she didn't want to see blood spilled in this room, she shouldn't let others in. This was his territory, and she belonged to him. She told him, okay, and thought he was weirdly possessive, even though they were just friends. She then asked why he never turned into human form. She wanted to see how he looked grown up. He wasn't sure if she could handle it, but did it anyway, and his beauty was nothing like she was expecting. Seeing his beautiful face, she just stared, saying, oh, picking her up? He asked if she thought she could handle him doing this, and her heart raced. She only thought, oh my god, he's gorgeous. She caressed his face, and he started kissing her hand. She had to tell herself to calm down. This was just one of his habits. He's always been like this. He then told her he wanted to touch her too. She went, oh, and suddenly he was on top of her with bedroom eyes. He told her he's been waiting a long time to touch her like this. But once he grew up, he worried that she would be frightened of him. He was just a cute little kitten. She wondered why he made her feel so good. As he kissed her head, she thought she knew humans and beasts acted differently. But Amon didn't seem to know that physical intimacy was not taken lightly among humans. She didn't want to take advantage of his innocence, and told him to hold on, and maybe later. He smiled, replying, so, you're saying that we can do more later? How much more? Since he was in human form, he wanted to sleep with her on the bed tonight. That meant he'd be falling asleep with her in his arms, holding her tight all night. She complied meekly, and so taking notice of her innocence, he decided to let her off the hook for now. On another day, Adelaide would take an unexpected visit to see her father. She told him she was saddened he's been too busy to spare any time for her. Coincidentally, once the event he's been preparing was over and done with, he thought they should take a trip somewhere. She wished they could go now, but he was too busy preparing the inaugural ceremony for the new leader of the divine beasts. She suddenly asked why he was working so hard on this, and why he stopped looking for Barahan's descendant. Her goal was to find this descendant. That way, they could control the beasts, show them who was superior, and she could ascend the throne. Trish remembered he was the one who planted the idea in her head. While the ideal solution was to forge peace through Blondina, he thought it was always good to have a backup plan. He gave Adelaide a special key, telling her the quest to find the descendant was no longer his. An emperor's duty was to protect his citizens by keeping the bloodthirsty beasts in line. He gave her the mission to find the descendant in his stead. Lart would suddenly arrive, and with Adelaide taking her leave, he took notice of her key. Lart was here to ask why his father abandoned Blondina's mother. Trish could tell there was a reason his son was bringing this up. He asked Lart if there was someone he'd begun to care for, someone he wanted to protect. Lart answered yes, so Trish told him to start with things within his grasp, fulfill his princely duties, and work towards becoming emperor, one so powerful that no one would dare touch what was his. As long as he became an emperor with unshakable power and authority, he'd be able to protect the woman he loved. He moved to the day of the hunting tournament, a nationwide event held at the Forest of the Divine Beasts, a place filled with mystical flora and fauna. While the beasts weren't too keen on hunting, they respected humans and their culture, allowing them to enter the forest twice a year. Blondina was sure it'd be like last year, no one offering their game to her. As usual, Adelaide would probably receive all the deer, rabbits, and other game caught. However, this time, Philip would glance her way. Lart would be the first to return, and for Lady Hirai, he presented his freshly caught fox. Everyone was shocked. He was offering game to the daughter of a fallen noble? She bowed gracefully, telling him it was an honor, and getting on his horse, he told her he'd bring a bigger one next time. Adelaide would come towards him with an irritated smile, asking why he was giving his game to a woman beneath her. He didn't see it that way though, telling her Lucy may become an imperial princess consort. He planned on telling their father he had feelings for her. Adelaide didn't give a damn who he chose as his partner. She just needed to use him to shield her ambitions until she could become empress. But the fact he chose someone so close to Blondina, she couldn't stand it. She calmed down, rationalizing that since Lucy was from a powerless family, she'd only drag him down, making it easier for her to ascend. He didn't care what Adelaide thought though. He was going to become so powerful for Lucy, no one would dare question him. Many girls received game from various participants, with Adelaide still receiving the most, of course. Philip would then come by, offering the bear at his feet, telling Blondina this was his gift to her. Everyone was shocked, but Trige clapped, declaring Marquess Philip Rodson the winner. Trige was glad he wasn't the only one who recognized Blondina's beauty. Then suddenly, people came running with the arrival of a black leopard. Realizing it was a divine beast, they became respectful in his presence. Amon moved towards Blondina, telling her, "Here I am, the game you hunted," and rested his head on her lap. The people spoke in hushed whispers, questioning if a divine beast actually referred to himself as game. Trige asked if by saying he was her game, did that mean he was captured by Blondina? And he told her, of course, from the very beginning. She asked why he was here, and he remembered a long time ago, her telling him nobody offered her anything at the hunting tournament. It made her feel so small. He dreamed of this day when he could offer himself, huge and noble, as her prize. With that, Trige declared Blondina the indisputable winner this year, and it was his pleasure to honor his eldest daughter. Everyone clapped and celebrated. Well, not everyone. Philip was at a loss. He thought he should have been the savior of the humble princess, not some mere animal. He was angry. Adelaide told him, "See, you should have offered your game to me, not her." She told him she liked him, his relaxed demeanor, handsome face, and even his aloofness, and to think about what he could get from marrying her. And he said he would think about it. Watching Amon and Blondina play around on a blanket, Lart asked Lucy if those two were dating or something. Lart started to think that with those two having a love affair, becoming emperor, it would work out in his favor, since he's gotten closer to Blondina. Blondina worried about the upcoming summer holidays. She had to join the royal family on a trip to the Zervan Peninsula to see the ice festival. Thinking about Adeline, her stepmother, she thought it wouldn't be a vacation, but instead torture. She then asked Magetto if Amon was home, and he also hadn't seen Amon in ages. He heard Amon went to the springs. Blondina decided to visit him, even knowing this expedition would be a little dangerous. She really missed him. He gave her a ring earlier, telling her if she ever planned on visiting, to wear it, since it contained some of his power, and no wild animal or divine beast would approach her with it on. Shanti would come out of the bushes, thinking they smelled Amon's presence. They recognized Blondina as the human who participated in their coming-of-age ceremony, the one their leader treasured. Sniffing at her, Shanti wondered why Amon didn't imprint on her. Perhaps Blondina was just prey. With Blondina explaining she was here to see Amon, Shanti told her it was dangerous because he was out of control. He supposedly was always a little weird coming back from the springs, but Shanti was willing to take Blondina to see him anyway. Shanti told Blondina to hop on, and they rode through the forest together. When they arrived, Amon would slam Shanti's head down. He didn't like Shanti calling Blondina Bridie, and told Shanti to watch out next time. Blondina asked if she shouldn't come here, considering Amon didn't even say hello. He told her that wasn't it. It's just he was dangerous to her right now. He'd suddenly transform and take her arm, telling her, "Don't come to me smelling like another beast, Bridie. It makes it harder for me to wait for you." She asked, "For what?" And kissing her hand, he told her, "My imprint on your body." He asked if she was ready, and she nodded lightly. He leaned his head on hers, and pulling his lips closer, she clenched his shawl. Kissing her lips, they'd fall to the floor, and she thought she must be dreaming, that something this good couldn't possibly happen to her in real life. They kissed more and more, and he stared at her, eye to eye. He told her he was close to losing control, and that since she was human, they should take it slow. He didn't want to hurt her. That night, she lied in bed, touching her lips, thinking of all the things he did to her. She couldn't believe that just happened. She really liked it, but wondered what was going on. She was so sure he liked Lucy. She questioned if this was all a misunderstanding, but his warm gaze on her was definitely real. The way his lips gently brushed against hers was real too. She knew he meant it when he held her and whispered into her ear. This all made it harder for her to figure out what he was really feeling. She thought perhaps beasts expressed their emotions differently from humans, but hoped that wasn't the case. During a dream sequence, she saw a woman approach a black leopard that looked just like Amon. Since he couldn't talk, the woman imbued her powers onto him, and when he asked who she was, she told him she was the protector of this forest. Lucy would slap Blondina out of her daze. She'd been contemplating her dream while having tea with Lart. Lucy was curious about the juicy details that happened between Blondina and Amon, but Lart would cut in with something he thought was much more important. His steed, Blackwind, was now 6 years old, the prime age for mating, and he wanted to give House Harive the first opportunity to sire offspring with his horse. Blondina sprung up, hearing springtime was always the time for mating for most animals. Now she was flush, wondering if the reason Amon made out with her was because it was mating season. She was determined to explain that humans have different notions of love, and since he kissed her, he couldn't take it back. Worst case scenario, she'd give up life as a royal and go live with him in the forest of the divine beasts. With him entering her room, she jumped on to hold him and sat by his side, thinking about his sleek, lithe body and strong jawline, his shining coat. He had every reason to be confident about his looks. His eyes shined like flames. They were so beautiful. He got flustered when she brought up it was mating season, and in a roundabout way, basically told him humans just don't make out with anyone. She was sure animals did that with whomever they laid their eyes on during this season, and told him if a human did that, they'd be called a cad, a scoundrel, or a rake. He would reply, "So, what you're saying is that if I don't want to be thought of as a scoundrel, I should only make out with you?" He licked her face, telling her she was really too innocent. She tapped him away, calling him a silly kitten, and he meowed. He continued to lick, assuring her he was giving her time so that he didn't do something he might regret. Meanwhile, Adelaide was still crashing out over what had happened at the hunting tournament. She needed to find a means to subdue and control those arrogant divine beasts to become empress. Philip entered, reporting that they were making steady progress with the translation of ancient documents to find the temple in which the descendant resided. According to royal legend, a holy spear was said to hang at the entrance of the temple. By collecting both the spear and using the golden key, one should be able to gain access to the god's quarters. And when the true descendant returns, the harp in the temple would resonate. Adelaide had secured several golden-eyed blondes who were potential descendants, and if all the ones she found weren't it, she'd just kill them and find the real one. In the forest, Amon asked how one got married, since humans couldn't spend the night with someone until after they'd married them. Magetto couldn't believe he was asking him. He was just a sparrow. Amon would drag Shanti out and ask him next, since he was in a relationship with Hala. Shanti explained he first proposed his love to her and gave her some pretty antlers, and also picked tons of raspberries for Hala's mom, since they were her favorite. Hearing this, Amon dipped out before Shanti could even finish his sentence. Amon arrived at the Emperor's palace, and one of the servants mistaked him for the foreign delegate who got lost in the royal gardens. He guided Amon to the waiting area outside. Enjoying some food, he wondered how long he'd have to wait, and got greeted by Maharin from Tarkon. Maharin asked where Amon was from, and he proudly answered, from the forest. Maharin heard the Empire recently took control of the forests near the eastern border, and assumed he must be from there. They shook hands, and figuring they'd probably run into each other during banquets and other events, Maharin thought he should show him who's boss. He tried clenching hard with his handshake, and Amon wondered what kind of strange greeting this was. He squeezed back, and Maharin shouted in pain. Lart knew this was an annual event, but meeting with delegates from over 40 countries was really tiring. He wondered if he'd be able to be half the emperor his father was. They'd suddenly hear a man shouting, "I give! I surrender!" And outside, Lart would peer at Amon crushing the 6th person at this point, and jolt up. The emperor would get alerted that the leader of the divine beasts was waiting amongst the delegates. Men were lining up to take Amon on as his next challenger. With the emperor and prince stepping out, Maharin urged Amon to bow down, but everyone was surprised to see Trige in turn greet him as the leader of the beasts. The rest of the guests soon followed suit, and Amon thought this was getting tedious. But with him leaving with the Emperor, Maharin was proud to be the first one to shake the hand of the divine beast. No one cared though. Trige was nervous, contemplating on why the leader of the divine beast would come see him. Then, Amon suddenly asked, "Emperor, what do you like?" And both the father and son replied back, "Excuse me?" Amon took the example of Shanti picking raspberries for Hala's mom to get approval to court her. He assumed the Emperor needed the same. Trige thought back to how he was originally searching for the descendant to eliminate the beast. But what he really wanted was just to coincide. He requested Amon to provide them with peace and stability. Amon didn't understand this abstract, philosophical form of answering, but he needed to give the Emperor something to make him happy so he could marry Blondina. He was thinking more along the lines of free entry to the forest of the divine beasts. But either way, he wanted everyone to bless their union. Lark chimed in for an idea, bringing up there was already a precedent set by the royal family to secure peace and stability. The first emperor married the princess of Wilhelm to end the war and bring peace to the kingdom, and Trige married Lark's mother, the daughter of the Duke of Ventium, to bring stability to the empire. It clicked for Trige. Marriage was the easiest way to strengthen alliances and sustain prosperity. But knowing divine beasts abhorred human beings, he wondered if they would agree to this kind of union. Amon slammed his hand on the table, telling him, "All right, I'll allow it. If marrying Blondina brings peace and stability to the region, then I'll do whatever it takes to make it happen." Trige was curious hearing Blondina. He knew they were close after seeing them together at the hunting festival, but not this close. Amon would then add stipulation. The marriage would only take place so long as Blondina wanted to marry him of her own free will. No force purely for the sake of peace. And thus, they'd keep this discussion a secret from her. Trige was surprised. He lived his entire life mired in political intrigue. This form of diplomacy was refreshing for him, and thus, he accepted the terms. When the new leader of the divine beasts come into power, the royal palace celebrates by offering lavish gifts and hosting an extravagant party. The coronation ceremony officially announces the new leader to the world, and outside of the palace, commoners continue to celebrate for days. That ceremony began tomorrow. Blondina was affectionately cheering Amon on. However, he only needed her acknowledgement, no one else's. Being the leader wasn't why he was happy anyways. Suddenly transforming, he put his head close to her nape, then gently kiss her face, and tell her that these things he was able to do to her as leader were what brought him joy. He was glad they were getting closer. He transformed back and told her to just wait a little longer. She wasn't sure what he meant by that, but whatever made him happy made her happy. Meanwhile, Adelaide would get word from Philip about more clues on where the temple they were looking for was. One of the men they captured claimed the royal palace was built on the temple site, so it had to be nearby. It was said to be a white building located deep within the forest, west of the royal palace. Adelaide became optimistic. However, Philip posed the idea that the descendant could refuse to work with them and instead rebel against the royal family. He suggested they deal with this scenario using magic stones. The citizens of the empire rejoiced. There hadn't been a leader of the divine beasts for a while. They finally had someone to lead and protect the empire. Rumor has it, he's so scary up close, you couldn't help but tremble in his presence. The stomp of the knights approached, and the people cheered with Trige's arrival. And what followed behind were his dear children, Blondina in particular, glad to take part in celebrating Amon's coronation. At the temple, Trige raised his hand, and the devout bowed before him. He then presented a sword, and out from the forest came Shanti and Hala, followed shortly by their leader, Amon Akin. Trige presented the unsheathed sword, symbolizing the vow humans made not to raise their sword against the beasts, and in return, the beasts agreed to cease their meaningless slaughter of the humans. This ceremony posed to remind everyone the safety of the humans lied in the hands of the beasts. Amon snapped the blade with a simple swipe of his paw, and everyone cheered at the sight. Amon was happy. The things he dreamed of when he first met Blondina were becoming reality one by one. He became leader of the beasts, received permission from the emperor, and now he only had one wish left. The most important thing he's been yearning to have come true the most. Beginning the celebration banquet, Blondina ran to embrace Amon. She congratulated him on his officiation recognized by the entire country. Some ladies watching would discuss the rumors that the princess and divine beast leader have a close relationship. They wanted to see the beautiful beasts at the palace as well, wishing they could go near them like the princess. Adelaide would hear them and wonder why their great family was bowing down to those oversized brutes. Why was she the only one outraged by this? She assumed Amon must have bewitched everybody and felt she needed to fix this. Lark would interrupt Adelaide's seethe session To say Blondina and Amon looked good together, Adelaide didn't think so. In her mind, a beast was a beast, no matter how strong, no matter what. She wanted them eliminated. She was caught off guard with Lark telling her she shouldn't be so obvious, that the relationship between the royal family and divine beasts has changed. He planned to peacefully coexist with them. That meant he'd be forming an alliance for the sake of stability and prosperity of mankind. She had to let this go, because he planned on maintaining peace by pushing for a marriage between Blondina and the leader of the beasts. He revealed that their father even agreed to the plan, and while he didn't know the significance of the key she was holding, this was her warning from him. Adelaide was taken aback. Was this the Lart she used to know? Stupid, tactless, and temperamental. She ran off, going to the only card she had left, Philip. He just received word from the search party dispatched to the Western Forest. They found the ancient temple, exactly what she needed. In the distant past, the continent was said to have been ruled by neither human nor divine beast, but its creator, God. The god disappeared one day, and the only thing that remained in his absence was his abode, the holy temple. Using the key her father gave her, the temple opened. They shoved in person after person with blonde hair and golden eyes, getting no reaction until one man triggered the harp. They found the descendant. The rest remaining, Adelaide ordered them to be killed, only acknowledging the chosen one. Joseph was scared. He only came along because he wanted a few bucks. He didn't expect people to be killed. Adelaide was gentle towards him, telling him if he swallowed this jewel, he would be spared. Now she had the descendant under her control. Moving to Blondina's room, Amon was whining because she wouldn't let him come to the Zervan Peninsula with her. Her excuse was that he was too big. But really, it was because he was in heat right now. She let him continue to sulk, but there was no way she could bring him when she knew he wouldn't be able to control himself. On top of the fact he's been pretty touchy-feely these days, even when Lart and Lucy were around. She didn't want the other royals to see a great beast acting this way. The trip was nothing special. They watched the snow fall with aristocrats who joined them on the trip, looked at the ice sculptures crafted by renowned artists, and stayed indoors and drank tea during snowstorms. Lucy didn't seem to be doing so well. She got motion sick from the journey over, meaning prime opportunity for Magetto to eat her leftovers. The gang would be greeted by Clea and Ruberos of the DeHill family. They just happened to be passing by and wondered if they could join. Ruberos would give a cold glare towards Lucy though, and she got up, offering her seat. Lart was very gentlemanly though, offering his own seat and gently setting her down. He then went to hassle Ruberos for making Lucy give hers up, angrily looming, asking if the successor to one of the greatest Imperial Knight families was getting soft. In the forest, Shanti asked why Amon was just chilling in their home these past few days. He and Shanti had just gotten married recently. He wanted Amon to go home and stop being a bum. He wanted to enjoy some alone time with Hala, and told Amon if he was that bored, he should go visit that precious human he usually watched all day long. Big mistake. Amon thought that was a good idea, and not knowing where the Zervan Peninsula was, he ordered the two to find out. Now, we turned to Ruberos consoling his sister, telling her she was the fairest of them all, to keep her head up. The prince would be a fool to let her go, but just thinking about the way Lart treated Lucy, she wept, having no idea what to do. They wondered if it was because Lart grew up in want of nothing. Nothing seemed to hold the prince's interest for long. The same went for his romantic relationships, but no matter what, Clea always stuck by his side. He told his sister to get up. They were going to teach that lowly lady-in-waiting a lesson. They'd interrupt Blondina and Lucy's personal tea time, inviting Blondina to an art exhibition their family would be holding after this trip. Blondina wasn't too eager to take invites from Adelaide's personal acquaintances, but told them she'd see what she could do. Ruberos brought up that it was very rewarding to support up-and-coming artists, then turned to Lucy, asking if House Harive supported any. Clea then asked Lucy if she knew Lart's favorite style of paintings, because he'd taken her to quite a few of his own exhibitions. This caused Lucy's heart to sink. He's never discussed anything like that with her. He only mostly cracked jokes. Clea would continue to take subtle jabs at the state of Lucy's family, like the fact House Harive recently sold off its country manors, only owning a single house in the capital. She told Lucy being a noblewoman was more than just having a pretty face. It was something in the blood, and that someone of low birth trying to imitate that was ridiculous. All this was overwhelming Lucy, really getting her to tear up. These two side villains are so annoying. Again, poor upbringing has misinformed them of their value. but not being children? I say send them to the gallows. Blondina slammed her teacup. She questioned how dare they insult her, the daughter of the Emperor. Ruberos didn't understand until she elaborated on them mocking her humble origins. He now knew they were checked. There were consequences to insulting the Emperor's daughter. The siblings ended up apologizing, and Blondina would take Lucy away with her. She consoled Lucy, telling her to raise her head, reminding her she was the daughter of the Emperor, who wielded endless power. On top of the fact the leader of the divine beasts was her friend, she told Lucy to pay them no mind, because she'd always be her beautiful, lovely, and precious Lucy. The siblings would report back to Adelaide, and Adelaide was prepared to teach Blondina a lesson for insulting them. We'd find Blondina sitting outside on a sled with dogs and a painter. Painting? Why the canvas look empty though? It had been an hour at this point. The artist insisted on a snowy ground for her portrait, since it would emphasize her majesty. Something seemed off about these dogs though. They started to go feral and began charging. Lark commanded his men to stop the sled. He could see it was headed towards the estuary. The ice there was too thin to withstand the weight of the sled, and the ocean too vast and too cold. Adelaide didn't expect this. She just wanted to see Blondina fall off the sled and faceplant, having had Ruberos drug the dogs to become feral. But she also didn't think this was necessarily a bad thing. Blondina jumped off, suffering some injury, but bad turned to worse, with the ice cracking beneath her. It fully cracked, causing her to plunge. Blondina was going to drown at this rate. Roggetto tried to pull her out, but to no avail. She was going numb from the cold, as if every cell in her body was freezing over. How deep would she sink? These waters were so deep, there was no way Amon could find her here. The ring he gave her slipped from her finger. He injected his powers into it to protect her. She knew she wasn't going to see her dear darling beloved kitty anymore. But then, Amon would jump in, and she'd see the man she loved. That evening, Lark was so nervous. They'd been searching for Blondina for hours. He worried about her being consumed by the depths of the cold sea, but then reminded himself that Blondina was the strongest person he knew. He commanded his servant to prepare a sled, but Adelaide would interrupt, asking if he wanted to end up underneath ice as well. She told him not to do anything foolish, to sit and wait still until they found Blondina's corpse. Lark was shocked. He knew she didn't like Blondina, but didn't think it was to this extent. She told him not to worry about that half-blood, and he responded she was right about something. Aside from the fact that he and Adelaide were full-blooded siblings, they didn't share anything in common. He decided to depart regardless of Adelaide's feelings, because he wanted to find his dear sister. With him gone, Adelaide went into her usual crash-out session over Blondina, breaking whatever she could find in the room. She couldn't understand why everyone was always looking out for that worthless half-blood. Seeing how deranged Adelaide was becoming, Philip calmed her down, reminding her that everything that should have been hers will be once again. As soon as the magic stone stabilized, they'd put their plan into action. Trige, meanwhile, was irritated by the lack of progress his men made finding his daughter. The fact that it would be nigh impossible to find Blondina in this weather. But he couldn't just bring himself to admit it. He couldn't let go of the hope she might still be alive. He thought back 20 years ago when he spent time with his beloved Lily. She cuddled up to him with the new cloak he bought her. It was more than warm enough for their baby this winter. The two had only spent a year together, but the imprint she left continued to haunt him even now. One time, while hanging the laundry, he was so worried, having told her to get some rest. She sighed. He was so clueless. She couldn't make it more obvious that she just wanted to spend more time with him. To become emperor, he needed to find the descendant of Barahan. During this search, he met Lily. Although she had blonde hair and golden eyes, she had no powers. When he looked into the eyes of their baby, he felt disgusted with himself for the brief disappointment he felt, seeing she did not have golden eyes. One evening, Duke Vintium sent word of his support. His daughter accepted Trige's marriage proposal, and he was to return to the royal palace as soon as possible. Lily found him outside and immediately showered him with love. She told him he should go back. He couldn't understand, but she knew he didn't belong here, only having feigned ignorance because she wanted to be with him. She hoped one day they'd meet again and greet each other with smiles. She wanted him to be happy. As soon as his memories of her began fading, their daughter showed up. When he heard from Blondina about the life Lily lived, he was racked with guilt over having abandoned her, and thought the only way to make it up to her was to make sure Blondina became as happy as possible. By the crackling fire, Amon was begging Blondina to wake up. In another dream sequence, Blondina saw the black leopard like before, but this time, He was crying over the one that found him, begging her not to leave him. The dying woman promised they'd meet again, and told him to be good in the meantime. Blondina wondered why her heart ached so much seeing him like this. The woman gave what power she had left to the leopard, telling her pretty cat to live, so they could meet again. Blondina woke up to Amon's worried expression. She touched him, confirming he was real. She could feel him trembling as she held his body. He kissed her forehead, then explained it was so hard to find her. If they had imprinted, he would have been able to find her right away. He kissed her again, and holding her close, told her when she went missing. He felt as though the world was crumbling around him. He suddenly shoved her down, because he made up his mind he wasn't going to lose her like that, ever again. The moment would be ruined by Magetto squawking and pecking at Amon to stop harassing Blondina, since she nearly died. The two bickering made her giggle. Amon shortly explained that when he made it to Zervin, he found Trige commanding his men to find his daughter faster. He quickly sniffed her out, and found Magetto trying to lift her by her hair. The smell was a lot more evident, because she absorbed some of his power that was inside the ring he gave her. He then leaned in close, getting her flush again, and went for another kiss. Now, they were lying on the floor. He held her close, and as they looked face to face, she thanked him, closing her eyes to rest. Amon later went out to get food for Blondina. She was getting pretty hungry. Magetto suddenly called her over, and outside, she'd find a pretty snow leopard. Amon arrived back, and after giving her a forehead kiss, he asked who the cat was. The leopard gave a quizzical expression, making him angry, and Blondina told Amon that was no way to treat a fellow leopard. The leopard would hide behind her as she scolded Amon, and Amon trembled with anger, explaining that was a male leopard, and he came over because he was infatuated with her. That aside, he told her after breakfast they should leave. He spotted fresh footprints nearby, and smelt faint traces of Lart and the Emperor. They'd been searching for quite a while. Trige wondered if it was a mistake to bring Blondina here in the first place. He just wanted to help her start a new life, and questioned if he was being punished for his past actions. He wished he had apologized to her for that time he looked down on her humble origins during their first tea. They'd suddenly find her riding on Amon's back towards them. Lart came to her, relieved and teary-eyed, seeing his sister was safe. Amon glanced over, staring at Trige's hurt-looking face. Trige was thinking he had no right to see his daughter, but Amon would tell him to just muster up the courage already. Amon originally thought Trige only saw Blondina as a part of his royal bloodline, nothing more. The audacity he had to act like a father. Trige's heart sank, being reminded of all the suffering he caused Blondina because of his past choices. Beaten and abused by innkeepers who took her in, having to eat garbage to survive. The trauma she felt from those experiences. He brought her to the castle, but neglected her for years. Despite this, Amon asked for his permission to marry Blondina, and went to all that extra trouble for the coming-of-age ceremony, all because Bridie was a princess, and he was required to ask the Emperor for a princess's hand in marriage. He didn't want Trige to reopen the old wounds in Bridie's fragile heart. Trige felt he shouldn't have turned a blind eye back then, when Lily told him she'd be fine without him. When he first met Blondina, she asked for his help. He should have asked her to tell him what she had gone through. He should have heard her out and asked for her forgiveness. Amon wasn't so confident she'd forgive him easily, but one day she would, because that's the kind of person Blondina was. Trige could finally see that Amon was right. He thanked the leader of Divine Beasts, because without him, he might have ended up hurting Blondina again. Amon scoffed. He needed no thanks. This was actually a warning. If Trige treated her like that one more time, or put her in harm's way again, he would show the full might of the Divine Beasts. Trige would walk over, and before Blondina could apologize for making him worry, he cut in to tell her he's glad she was safe, and that he was sorry for leaving her and Lily back then, and for hurting her all these years, and for thinking he could make up what he's done by simply letting her live as a princess. His arrogance. He asked for her forgiveness. Blondina told him she'd be lying if she said everything was fine. Things were really tough and painful back then, but she found happiness through the people she met, and the memories she was able to share with them out the grief. It was still hard for her to understand or forgive the choices he made then, but she was sure she'd forget one day. Trige was thankful. Everyone cheered with Blondina's return. Lily came running into her arms. All were happy, except for Adeline. She lived her whole life, loved and recognized by everyone around her. But one day, Blondina appeared out of nowhere, and little by little, before she even realized, Blondina began to steal away what was hers. Adeline mumbled, "I'll get it all back. but I'll need to do it properly this time. Philip wondered what she was thinking about, but was glad Blondina was safe. He could tell Adelaide was becoming even more unpredictable by the day. He couldn't wait around putting his trust into a hysterical princess and her foolish lackeys. One of his men came out, reporting Blondina recovered at a cottage after being rescued by Amon. As he requested, the man had the Rodson Knights end their search as soon as she found Intrigue. Since Blondina made it back safely, Philip could continue his plans, so long as he could get Adelaide to do what he wanted. Things were eerily quiet in Adelaide's palace. She'd suddenly utter, "I'm going to kill them all," and Philip jolted up. He asked if she was referring to the DeHill siblings, who they had drugged the dogs, or Princess Blondina. Adelaide's maid would suddenly enter with an important message. Blondina was on her way to the DeHill's quarters. Since the servant was so useful, Adelaide rewarded her with some jewelry, and there'd be more of that, so long as she reported on Blondina. Amon could see Blondina was getting ready to go somewhere. She tried to convince him not to follow, because she was planning on threatening the DeHills. She didn't want him to see that. Plus, he was too big. That excuse was getting a little too old for him. So, he smirked, as his forehead jewels sparkled, and he transformed into a smaller cat form. He snuggled up to her, saying, "Hold me, Bridie. Your cute little beast is too frail to walk on its own." She lovingly took him in her arms. Making her way, the maid would follow behind. Blondina didn't have proof that the Hills were involved, but remembered Lucy telling her she got scared when one of the dogs tried lunging at her. Apparently, they captured one of the dogs, and it seemed like it was on stimulants. Blondina met with the DeHill siblings, and they seemed completely nervous. Amon transformed into full size as she asked them, "Do you hate me that much?" She pressed the two, until she baited Ruberos into saying, "That's not it! I only used what I was given!" Now Blondina could see Lucy had it wrong. The dog wasn't rushing towards her. It was trying to get the people who used the stimulants on them, the DeHills. The person who egged them on? Adelaide, obviously. Amon gritted his teeth and charged at Ruberos, pinning him to the ground. He applied just the right amount of pressure to incapacitate, but not kill a human. Either way, he was sure Ruberos would end up dead soon anyway. With the two taking their leave, Blondina let the siblings know they'd still need to pay the price for conspiring to murder a member of the royal family. This was far from over. Hearing the report from the maid, Adelaide was pissed. The DeHills not only fell into Blondina's trap, but they also got Amon involved. Philip told her to kill the DeHills. It was a better solution than murdering Blondina, because if she were to die, the Emperor would not rest until he found out who was behind it. The thought of Tricia's tender care towards Blondina pissed her off, but she agreed to what Philip was saying. One evening, Philip would knock at Blondina's door. He gifted her tea leaves, used to promote relaxation and sleep, and she of course eyed them suspiciously. Taking his seat, he noticed the bandages around her arms. She was surprised to hear that he was personally worried about her, having even sent his own men to look for her, and said that if he had been by her side, none of this would have happened. He reached for her hand, telling her it wasn't too late to seek the protection of the Rodson family. He promised her a life of peace and tranquility. Even knowing House Rodson was one of the 4 dukedoms of the kingdom, she pulled away, telling him she wasn't so weak that she needed his protection, and that instead of placating her, he needed to focus on stopping Adelaide. Blondina would not tolerate his foolishness a second time. Philip turned cold, asking her how long she thought that arrogant divine beast would be by her side, reminding her that there was once another being that ruled over all, long before the beasts. He told her face to face that she just threw away the last chance to save herself. Bro, this guy is the prime example of a quote-unquote nice guy that gets rejected. Seeing the wicked look in his eyes, she wondered if this really was the Philip she knew. After kicking him out, she speculated there must be something up with why he emphasized the divine beasts. She took his gifts and tossed them in the fireplace, with feelings to protect those who were important to her. While on another outing, Blondina noticed the DeHills heading out somewhere nervously with a guard. Clea was getting scared because they were going deeper and deeper into the woods. They gaslit themselves, trying to stay positive that they were only going to meet Princess Adelaide. Adelaide told them earlier she found a way to absolve their sins, and with too many eyes where they were, they should discuss it somewhere quieter. With the siblings now finding themselves surrounded by knights wielding their blades, they could see they were being tossed aside. Lart would report to Blondina and the others that the DeHills lost their footing while enjoying the view by the cliffs. He assumed they may have jumped off to avoid punishment that they would have received for trying to harm a member of the royal family. Blondina ran off in the direction that the hills went, and Amon smelt the same scent he caught on those dogs back then. Finding one of Clea's gloves, he questioned if they really threw themselves off. He smelt various people here, other than just the DeHills. He would sniff a pouch he found on the ground. It lingered with the scent of the drugs used on the dogs. The problem with all this is that it wasn't enough evidence. Blondina would ask Amon for his help. Adelaide would meet with Duchess DeHill, telling her in honor of the memory of her children, she'd be taking care of her sole heir, Vert DeHill. While Adelaide was leaving, her carriage would abruptly stop, and the door would open to Adelaide and Amon. He'd leave Blondina to take her time while he took the coachman's seat. Adelaide shoved Blondina, telling her out of the way. Amon was getting angry in the front, but couldn't do anything. Blondina told him not to come after her, no matter what he heard. She cut to the chase, pulling out the pouch of stimulants Adelaide gave the DeHills to use. Adelaide was shaken, questioning how Blondina got her hands on that, and Blondina would show it was hidden in the glove that Clea dropped by the cliffs. Adelaide thought the siblings were useless to the very end. She smirked, challenging Blondina, asking how she could prove anything. Blondina was willing to accept this challenge by threatening to use the stimulants in the pouch on the carriage horses. And if it was filled with the stimulants, then Adelaide would end up just like she did back on that snowy hill. Blondina would surprise her further, saying, "I guess Philip didn't relay my message." She told Adelaide she needed to stop, that she never intended to take anything from Adelaide or steal from her. The only thing Blondina wanted was Amon by her side, and told her not to encroach on her territory again. Adelaide responded, no, because in her eyes, Blondina already stole many things from her. So why couldn't she do the same? She just wanted to return everything to its rightful place, and felt she had every right to do so. She thought Blondina was the one who started this. Blondina accepted, but from now on, she'd be holding Adelaide responsible for the things she was doing. Blondina took off with Amon off the carriage. Adelaide would shout,
"You think someone like you would have the power to stop me? You can try all you want, Blondina, because I'm not going to stop."
Blondina wondered how things got so bad. She's known for a long time that Adelaide despised her, and that her hatred seemed to have grown lately, but had no idea it stemmed from her belief that she was taking what was hers away. Blondina questioned if this was her fault. She slapped her own cheeks, telling herself to snap out of it. There was no use crying over spilt milk. She needed to stop Adelaide before she did something worse. Luckily, Adelaide never caught on to the fact the pouch was filled with plain old sugar. Amon licked her face, making her blush. There was somewhere he wanted to take her for a rest. She'd wake up in a beautiful flowery field. Amon stumbled on this place when he was heading over to the Zervan Peninsula. He wanted her to be the first person to see it. Placing a flower crown on her head, he explained he wanted to give her a present, but couldn't get any antlers since there were no deer nearby. No matter what Blondina decided, he'd always be by her side. He held her, pulling his face close to hers. Holding her down with love, he promised in his heart he'd get rid of anything that might cause her pain, as he's always done, forever. Adelaide sipped her tea, reflecting on her interaction with Blondina. As far as she knew, Philip never met Blondina in an official capacity after they began working together. She wondered if she should get rid of him, but decided against it, since it'd throw a wrench into her plans. More importantly, he was the heir of the Rodson family. He'd enter with good news. The descendant of Barahan had finally come into his powers. She sprung up hearing this. This confirmed to Adelaide that she couldn't get rid of Philip, but she also couldn't let him off the hook. They found their spy maid at the door. She wanted to talk to Adelaide about something, quitting her spy work for her. This maid realized if Adelaide was willing to kill her allies, she wasn't safe either. She made the excuse that her mother, who lived in the countryside, was very ill. She wanted to go back home to look after her. Pointless, though. Adelaide didn't trust this girl would take their secrets to the grave. So, Philip would be entrusted with dealing with her, splattering her blood in a single stroke. At the training ground where Joseph was, he thought about the legend of Barahan, the younger sibling of the original god having the power to control the divine beasts, and how his descendants managed to inherit a small portion of his power. He thought it was just a myth, never realizing it was real. The more he practiced controlling this beast, the stronger his powers grew. If he kept this up, he thought he might gain enough power to escape. Adelaide would meet with him, and he began to tremble. She was here to put his powers to the test. Philip had told Joseph that by swallowing that gem, his life was connected to Adelaide's. She reminded him as long as he did as she told him, he wouldn't be hurt. She promised to get rid of the magic stone once all this was over, so all he needed to do was obey her orders like an obedient dog. Adelai's party continued through the forest, having sprinkled an odor-eliminating powder on themselves to avoid getting discovered by the divine beasts. One of the men would point out a sleeping leopard, and Adelaide told Joseph to show them what he could do. Raising his hand, the color around the leopard's stone changed, and he had it shred the butterflies apart. Unfortunately, he'd quickly lose control. Adelaide was fine with this. If he just became a little more skilled, everything would go according to her plan. However, the beast they tested to control wasn't going to let them leave. The beast was angry, figuring they'd found Barhan's descendant. They were just celebrating the inauguration of their leader and promising peace in their faces while trying to repeat history behind their backs. Philip ordered his men to shoot arrows, but they were completely ineffective. The beast shoved Philip down. Adelaide knew she needed to get away, but her legs wouldn't move. The beast scolded them for their greed, asking if it was never ending, but Adelaide got cocky. She didn't understand why Riff Raff kept lecturing her about how greedy she was supposed to be. Everything was rightfully hers. The beast would go to attack, but get shoved down back by Joseph's powers. He could see he had far more control now. He told the beast to come forward and pay his respects. The beast, completely mind-controlled, said his name was Rabbi. Now Joseph had the power to control both body and mind. Adelaide started to laugh. She told Joseph it was time to head back. They had more to do. While Blondina was hard at work, Amon was not focused at all, just observing her and messing around. She was planning an upcoming ball themed for peace and harmony among the divine beasts. She really had to lay on the charm to get him to work. Unfortunately, that made him want them to get to work in a different way. Lucy and Magetto entering would ruin their moment though. They'd all sit down and chat for a bit, and Lucy was shocked to hear Amon knew nothing of court etiquette. Blondina would show him things, like sitting up straight during his meals, and not placing his elbows on the dining table. But he questioned why go through all the hassle. She responded that these rules had been established amongst humans, and if you didn't follow, others considered you impolite, and they'd speak ill of you behind your back. Amon thought this was silly. Why would he worry about what humans thought of him? Blondina's eyes widened, thinking about it. That's right. Amon didn't need to curry favor with anybody. He was the strongest and mightiest of all divine beasts. Lucy wasn't going to let this go though, because Blondina would be the one subject to the criticism, even if he didn't care. He realized what she was telling him, and immediately straightened his posture. Blondina later showed him how to properly use different silverware, but staring at her beautiful face, he gulped, and eventually lunged at her to give a love bite, and then kisses all over. She didn't mind when he did this, but Lucy and Magetto were watching. Magetto started flailing about, panicking, thinking Amon was trying to eat her. He started to peck at Amon, but Lucy would grab and take him away. There were only 10 days until the ball, so Lucy adamantly decided to take over his lessons. She'd show him the proper steps for dancing, and Blondina couldn't help but stare. They were standing a bit too close for her to feel comfortable. In her mind, they were dancing so romantically, and she wondered what would happen if Amon ended up liking Lucy again after all this close physical contact. Lark was shaking anxiously as well, barely able to hold his teacup properly. He's been up to his neck in royal duties recently, and finally took some time off to see Lucy. But now she was getting intimate with Amon? Would you guys get jealous if your friend was dancing like this with your significant other? Let me know in the comments. Lark told him this wouldn't do. He offered to teach Amon how to dance instead, because he knew more about ballroom dancing than Lucy. And of course he couldn't stand watching this anymore. By evening, Amon asked, "Bridie, did you hear what they said earlier? I'm a good dancer now." He wanted her to tell him he did good. He pulled her in suddenly and said, "Now that there's no one else around, can I stay close to you like this?" He started by placing his hand around her waist and showed off the dancing taught to him by Lart, the cool night air and the pale moon shining through the windows. It felt like a dream dancing with Amon under the moonlight. Blondina gulped, thinking Amon seemed a little different than usual. He caressed her face, asking if she was thirsty. He told her he was too. He didn't know why, but he was always restless whenever he saw her. He's been like this since the first day they met. He didn't know what to do with himself when he was around her. He became anxious and worried, and there was a constant hunger he couldn't seem to sate. He'd do anything for her. She was the one who brought him home with her and kept him by her side. He told her she better take responsibility for what she's done. Falling on top of her, he told her, "Only have eyes for me, Bridie. If you promise me that, I swear I'll never let you go." Reaching for his face, she wondered when her little kitten grew so big. She answered, "I'll always be by your side, Amon. That's what I'm here for. I'm the one who brought you home. I promise to take care of you and cherish you for the rest of my life." He started kissing her all over, and she was flush following. Dreaming, Blondina saw the black leopard visiting that mysterious golden-haired woman once more. The leopard was worried because they were coming. The woman told her dear little kitty to stop fretting, and the two lay and relaxed together. Blondina woke up to Lucy telling her she overslept. Today, Blondina needed to get ready because it was a special day, the day of Amon's party. Arriving in masquerade, Blondina was in awe. She could tell her father put a lot of effort into this ball, not to mention the amazing idea Amon came up with. Since humans obsessed so much over who was human and who wasn't, the masks made everyone indistinguishable. Now everyone was socializing freely, uncaring of others' class or social standing. An interesting man would come up to greet Blondina and ask why she always smelled so nice. Shanti wanted to know her secret. Watching her father and Amon chatting joyfully, she wondered when the three of them got so close. She's never seen Amon spend time with Lart or her father. He was usually loafing around her royal villa all day. Shanti would interrupt her train of thought, questioning if her child with Amon would end up divine beast or human. Ooh. Hala tugged at his ear, scolding him for spewing nonsense again. Shanti couldn't help being stupid for some reason, going up to his wife's tummy and announcing their future baby's name, Zen. It was apparently a name he and Amon cooked up together. Hala ultimately had to drag him away before things got more embarrassing. Blondina started to feel conflicted. Those were the cats she watched to grow up with Amon, and now they were having a baby? Amon was just acting like a spoiled kitten with her a few days ago. She couldn't imagine having a child with him. She didn't know what to think. Trige announced today was a day for celebration. Their empire could truly enjoy peace now that the Forest of Divine Beasts took the initiative forward to protect and nurture the empire. And while under their protection, they'd in turn revere the beast. The people cheered, raising their glasses to the friendship between both kinds. Following the toast, Adelaide walked up to her father, congratulating him on getting the divine beasts under his thumb. He shushed her, telling her to watch what she said, and to understand the relationship between both kinds was no longer what it was. She asked if that was why he allowed that half-blooded wench to stand by him and Lart. He responded it was thanks to Blondina. They've entered a new era where humans and divine beasts could coexist peacefully, and that is why she, not Adelaide or Lart, deserved to stand by his side. He touched her shoulder, reminding her the three of them were his children, descendants of the royal bloodline. And there was a time where he would have agreed with her, but he's realized since then that everyone had their own role to play. With Joseph appearing behind her, she told him she'd keep that in mind. She told Philip there'd be a slight change of plans, and he was startled, asking if she was really sure. She smirked deviously, because it was time to show them how fleeting this peace was. Shanti, meanwhile, was enjoying the food. Hala told him to stop pigging out. Everyone was having a good time, but Hala would bring up to Amon that they hadn't seen O'Malley in a while, or Rabbi either. She searched the entire forest, but couldn't find him. A few days ago, she sensed a distortion in the forest's magical current. She thought she was just being sensitive because she was pregnant, but something felt off about the forest's quietness. Amon had also searched the forest every night after tucking Blondina in for bed. Nothing really stood out to him, other than the eerie silence of the forest and the shredded butterflies. But, knowing Hala's instincts were always on point, he felt he needed to dig deeper into this. Noticing some of the guests were taunting Shanti for clumsily dropping her glass, Shanti got permission to rough them up a bit. Tossing the man aside, he thought it was funny, since the man was sneering earlier and running his mouth. Suddenly, he'd feel strange and forcibly transform into beast form, and was now headed for Trige's direction. Everyone jolted in fear as Shanti charged towards the Emperor. Adelaide's goal was to show her father the creatures whom he extended an olive branch to were dangerous. She believed what the beasts needed wasn't peace, but enslavement and subjugation. But then, Amon stopped Shanti, and he snapped out of it. Hala scolded him as he was trying to explain he was just trying to teach the man insulting them a lesson. The man from earlier wouldn't have it. But Triege silenced Marquess Domine. He told the Marquess he would turn his back on the beasts, raise his sword against them, even if his own blood ended up being spilled by their claws. But he didn't believe the Marquess was justified, and wanted to know what he had done to anger the beasts. Amon could see Shanti was back to normal, but something was off about his eyes earlier. Adelaide was satisfied with Joseph's performance, despite the fact he wasn't able to maintain control once Amon jumped in. She told him not to worry, he just needed to keep practicing. She got his heart racing, telling him to remain loyal to her and her alone. Watching Triege get his ankle treated, Hala would continue to scold Shanti. He promised it wasn't his intention. He suddenly felt like someone was messing with his head. Amon would grab his face and examine him up close. Shanti couldn't change his eye color at will. It was only for a split second, but Amon saw his eyes were the same color as Blondina's. He felt he needed to discuss this with Elder Aisha after the ball. Since she was the oldest living divine beast, she had to know something. Right now, though, his priority was to console Blondina and make the rest of the ball. After some dancing, he told her as she sat on the ledge, whispering sweet words like, "For you, I could pretend to be human for the rest of my life." He kissed her forehead, letting her know he'd been waiting for this ball. Both her father and Lart coached him on how to properly say this to her. He slid her glove off her left hand, and slipping a ring on it, he asked, "Bridie, will you marry me?" He's been a patient, dear little kitten for her for all these years. She laughed warmly, answering,
Yes, Amon, I'll marry you.
The two would kiss under the night sky. They'd get interrupted by Lart, telling them the Emperor would be making an important announcement soon. With the guests of honor all arriving, Triege requested they remove their masks in anticipation of his important announcement. He congratulated Blondina and Amon on their engagement, blessing that they may find happiness together. Everyone congratulated them, raising a toast to this momentous occasion. Blondina was so surprised to find Amon and her father plan this together. Elder Aisha came by to give her congratulations. She figured that was why Amon stayed in cub form for so long. But Amon would butt in before the elder could explain his embarrassing circumstance. He was glad she came though. She usually didn't bother with parties like these. Turns out, Shanti and Hala both pestered her non-stop about it. She couldn't believe they ended up together when they used to fight all the time as children. The conversation was pleasant, but Blondina felt uneasy seeing Adelaide's devious smile. She thought something must be up. Later that night, Blondina rolled around her bed, so excited just thinking about marrying Amon. He paid her a visit, and lifting her hand, he told her he couldn't wait any longer. Ever since she told him humans only mated after marriage, he's been patiently waiting for tonight. He played the technically we're practically married since they formally announced their wedding plans. He got on top of her, promising he'd never hurt her. There was no more talking about this. He told her not to run away, because when someone ran, his instinct was to hunt them like prey. He was a beast after all. They began to kiss, speaking words of love towards each other. She should have never listened when he told her she wouldn't get hurt. She had no idea she'd end up having to recuperate in bed the entire next day. She knew that one was susceptible to a fever after imprinting. She was happy though, so it was okay. The two took a stroll in town, and Blondina's eye caught some pretty jewelry. She was interested in a green jeweled necklace for cats and dogs. She, of course, had a big black cat. He ended up getting two of them, one for Blondina's finicky cat and their kitten. He whispered they were going to have to try harder if they wanted to see a kitten wearing one. She couldn't take how naughty he was being. She'd spot some kids passing by, and it made her think of when her and Amon were kids. Ever since meeting him, every day felt like a miracle. He made her so happy, and now that they were married, she promised to make him even happier than he was now. He thought back to always being cast away by the humans, being called a monster. But she saved him. She was his everything, his happiness, his saving grace. He told her that tomorrow, though, he had to go see Elder Aisha. He didn't explain that it had to do with what happened with Shanti at the ball, because it might worry her, but gently kissed and told her to spend time with Lucy while he was out. He suddenly picked her up, deciding they'd be heading back. In the forest, Aisha was stopped by Rabbi. She sighed with relief, asking where he's been all this time. He told her he got lost while chasing after the butterflies, and Aisha snarled, asking who was controlling him. Joseph told her she caught on quickly. She knew the eyes of the divine beasts, controlled by the descendant, always glowed silver. Adelaide was here as well. Aisha was confused. She thought the Empire desired peace with the divine beasts. Adelaide answered they did. But why settle for peace when they had the means to control them? Aisha warned her to stop, because in the process of attempting to achieve her objective, she'd suffer many losses, past the point of no return. Adelaide already felt like she lost too much, and she wanted to return everything to its rightful place. Joseph waved his arm, and Aisha struggled. He wondered why his powers weren't taking her over. Adelaide asked why he wasn't doing his job properly, and he flinched, thinking he had to get this beast under his control, because if he failed, he'd die. Rabbi chomped on Aisha's flesh, and in that time, Joseph would take control of the elder. Amon tucked Blondina in bed, giving her a heartfelt kiss. He was about to take off, but she stopped him to ask if he thought Adelaide was acting this way because she truly thought she took what was rightfully hers. Adelaide never bullied her directly when they were children. Lard was actually worse to her back then. She'd surprise him on by telling him not to worry though, because she'd do everything she could to protect him, then promptly passed out. In her dream, a man asked Raphian if dipping her feet in the water was enough. This man was Barahan, and he informed her that another war was starting, even though it's only been a few years since they brought peace to the continent. He believed humans no longer cared about the existence of gods like them. They were too busy trying to steal each other's land. He was startled, seeing Raphian hand him a gift. It was the sword she used to drive out the shadows of the continent. From the beginning, it was her duty to drive out the shadows and nurture the lands, and she was on the verge of fulfilling that destiny. She thought since Barahan was the deity overseeing mankind, he might need it more. The sword that held her sacred powers, with it, his power and authority would finally be total and complete. That meant he'd no longer be what he thought of himself as, a half-baked demigod in the shadow of Raphian. He swore to use the sword to bring order to all. Raphian spent the rest of her days with her beloved kitty, relaxing in the spring where she was born. It was her resting place. The beast was thankful for her. Since her appearance, the shadows disappeared and the forest flourished. She suddenly held him close, catching the cat off guard. She asked him if she lost her sacred powers, would he leave her, transforming? He told her he'd be perfectly fine if she did, because then she'd be mortal. God or not, she was still the light of their continent and his ruler. She was so happy. She started giving him the rest of her remaining powers, telling her dear little kitty to protect her from now on. Barahan appeared, asking her what the meaning of this was. He questioned why she was giving what little power she had left to that animal. Was she trying to become a mere mortal, forsaking her duties as a god? She answered, "Yes, I'm tired." Barahan shouted, telling her to get her act together. It was bad enough she was abandoning her godhood, but also passing her powers to some filthy animal as well. She glared, telling Barahan to leave him alone. He didn't understand. He thought she gave him this blade because she deemed him her successor, but that wasn't the reason. She gave it to him so he could pass on to humankind one final blessing from them. Humans now had the wisdom and power to maintain their own peace. She believed they didn't need gods anymore. It was too late though. Barahan's greed tainted her sword. He wouldn't stop, telling her humans needed them to rule them. He pulled the blade, lunging towards the leopard, stabbing him directly. Barahan felt he was the only one entitled to receive Raphian's powers. Going for another strike, Raphian was prepared to use all her remaining power. She told him to come closer, and she'd give Barahan what he wanted. The leopard begged her not to, and Blondina teared up, watching this dramatic affair, suddenly waking up in tears. Her plan was to meet up with Adelaide to talk, but Lard would meet up with her at the crack of dawn to talk about allowing women to participate in the hunting contest next year. He didn't actually want to be here either, but last night, Amon woke him up to tell him to stay close to Blondina while he was gone. He also told Lard not to tell Blondina he didn't want her to worry. While having tea, Blondina asked about his relationship with Adelaide. He explained that in their youth, while they did get along, they only spent time together during social events. More precisely, she was only there whenever their father was present. Blondina then asked if there was a particular reason Adelaide hated her so much. He thought it was uncharacteristic for Adelaide to go so far as to kill someone, but ever since he saw her leave their father's office with that key, she seemed a bit more over the edge. He told Blondina he heard their father mention the descendant of Barahan, and Adelaide left the room with a key in her hand. Their father stopped searching for the descendant after signing the peace treaty, but prior to that, he had been searching all his life. Because of that, Lart and Adelaide grew up harboring ill will towards the beast. Blondina started connecting the dots. The descendant could control beasts, which would explain what happened to Shanti. She told Lart she needed to see Adelaide right now, suspecting she must have already found the descendant. Lart clenched his shirt, asking Blondina to let him talk to Adelaide first. Really though, he felt bad, having some idea of what Adelaide might have been up to. But he didn't do anything about it because he was hoping she'd stop of her own accord. He wanted this chance to convince Adelaide to cease this foolishness. Out in the forest, having controlled so many at this point, Joseph assumed he could control at least 20 more beasts. Beginning to head back, an ominous voice told Joseph, "You're wrong." Joseph turned, but he saw no one. The voice spoke again, saying he could control more beasts than that. He told Joseph if he wanted more power, he needed to go to the temple. And when Adelaide went to check on him, she saw a crazy look on his face as he told her he needed to go to the temple and regain his true powers. Arriving back, they'd be cheerfully greeted by Lart. He told her he thought they could catch up over tea. They usually had tea with their father, and hadn't had tea time with just the two of them since they were little. She decided to invite him in, but he'd take notice of Joseph and ask her if he was the descendant of Barahan. She smiled back, telling him that's right. She was proud of herself for finally succeeded in what their family had been trying to do for generations. Lart asked her to stop. This was all meaningless with their father signing the peace treaty. Adelaide's true peace, however, was subjugating the beasts, all so she could become the Empress of Eights. She clicked her tongue. Given how excited he seemed earlier, she expected Lart to react to the news better. She thought he was weak and pathetic as always. Ever since they were little, everyone said she was more suited for the throne than he was. Adelaide was always so confident and clever. Lart admired her. But now, he was done trying to change her mind. He's changed his own. He told her if what she was saying is true, her actions would trigger a war, which meant she was willing to plunge the entire empire into chaos just to enslave the beasts. He had no choice but to fight her for the throne. He told her finding the descendant wasn't enough to rule. The emperor served the people of Eights, not the descendant. Their father desired peace with the beasts, and he had the support of the majority of nobles and commoners. And in the center of it all was Blondina. Lart was her staunch support and close ally. Adelaide, in contrast, only had the descendant. He tugged at her shirt, telling her he hoped she'd one day realize the error of her ways and return to the sister he admired. But if she continued to sacrifice innocent lives for her selfish gain, he'd have no choice but to take action. Not only to protect the person he loved, but to stop her from continuing this path of ruin. He slammed the door, leaving Adelaide behind, telling the maid to inform him the minute Adelaide left the palace, and to make sure she was discreet about it. Joseph was panicking. His powers meant nothing without the divine beasts. He wondered what would happen if Adelaide decided to abandon him. She, however, quickly suited up, deciding it was their time to move before her naive little brother informed their father of what she was doing. She understood what Lart said to her, but it was too late to go back now. She had no intentions of stopping here. Returning back to Blondina's palace, Lart was shocked to hear she left and likely headed to the divine beast forest. Earlier, Magetto had come squawking through her window, telling Blondina there was trouble. The divine beasts were in a pit, trapped, and needed their help. Blondina found Aisha bloodied amongst her kinsfolk. She told Blondina the descendant was the one who did this to them, and his powers were growing stronger by the day. History would repeat itself. Aisha was about to explain the details involving the founding god and the sword, but she stumbled, warning Blondina that they were coming. The mind control began to wash over Aisha, and she told Blondina to get out of here. But behind Blondina's back, arms would pull her away. Adelaide, Philip, and Joseph arrived, with Lart keeping Blondina quiet, observing them in secrecy. Adelaide's plan was to head to the temple now. It is said the sword the original god bestowed upon Barahan was inside. Finding it, the descendant would be able to reclaim full power. Blondina knew immediately what that sword was. After Adelaide's party left, Blondina told Lart to tell their father what was happening immediately. She needed Lart to put a plan together with their father to protect the people of Eights, while she protected Amon and the beasts. Elsewhere in the forest, Amon stood, feeling uneasy, seeing shredded clothing and traces of blood where a fight took place. It contained the scent of Elder Aisha, mixed with the stench of something vile. Shanti came by, reporting Aisha's house was still empty. The other divine beasts said they hadn't seen her in ages. Amon could tell something unsavory was happening in the forest. Arriving at the temple, Adelaide could see the ominous darkness clouding around Joseph. Philip told her he'd remain outside. Now that Prince Lart knew about the descendant, it was only a matter of time before he found out about this place. He wanted to put the guards on high alert, in case of an emergency. Once she got inside, Philip's men told him preparations were complete, and he wasn't going to keep Princess Blondina waiting. Seeing the harp statue, Joseph stared like an insane person. Adelaide knew something was definitely off about him. Up until now, he'd been nothing but timid and weepy, but from that moment after taming so many beasts, it was like he became completely different. Joseph raised his hand, causing the harp to vibrate, and the door behind it opened to the sacred blade. Taking it in his hands, he told her it was time to return to the pit and put their plans into action. However, they'd hear Amon say, "I knew it," entering with Shanti and Hala. He knew it was Adelaide all along. Barahan, through Joseph, recognized Amon, the lowly animal who dared covet the power of the gods. Adelaide was worried they were outnumbered, but Joseph had no fear. He was going to kill the black leopard once and for all. How Amon was able to track them down was when Joseph let his guard down. Thinking he had complete control of Aisha, he had to get another beast to subdue her. But in that time, she ripped a part of his jacket off, and some of her blood spilled on it. Amon was pissed for all the trouble the descendant caused for him back at the ball. Joseph didn't care though, because without Raffian, Amon to him was just a useless animal. Amon dodged the first strike, but he wasn't prepared for Shanti and Hala to bite him from behind. He could easily take them down, but finding Hala now might put her baby in danger. Joseph raised the sword, telling Amon their ill-fated relationship was ending here. He began to take over Amon's mind, and Adelaide's smile grew bigger. He'd see a vision of Raffian on the day she died, mistaking her for Blondina, and transformed back, telling Shanti and Hala to snap out of it. Joseph was distraught. He couldn't understand why Amon was able to resist. Adelaide told him to focus. They needed to return to the pit. Amon would charge right at them, and dodge his friends attacking from behind. They were attacking thoughtlessly, uncaring of whether or not they got hurt in the process. He couldn't fight them like this. Blondina, meanwhile, was searching desperately for Amon, but Philip would be the first one to find her. He warned her to get out of here, because once Adelaide gained control of the beasts, she'd use that power to lay claim to the throne. Then the first thing she'd do after that is eliminate those who supported the beasts, and Blondina was on the top of that list. That was the least of Blondina's concerns, though. She was worried about the safety of the people of Eights and the divine beasts. Philip somehow knew she'd say that. That's what he found so attractive about her. She was honest, principled, and strong. He was afraid she'd fall into despair and lose her light. So he took pity and decided he'd be the one to save her. He realized now he didn't feel pity towards her, but instead, love. When she rejected his final offer, citing her feelings for Amon, he decided then and there he'd forget about her. But he failed at that too. He had one of his men knock her out, taking her in his arms so that she could escape. Trees sprung up, with Lart telling him the descendant had been found. Learning Adelaide was the cause, he slumped back down. He knew Adelaide was clever, so he thought she would understand what he meant. He blamed himself for all this. Lart told him they needed to evacuate the civilians and position their troops strategically throughout the palace. They may end up losing Adelaide forever. Trees was willing to accept this. He'd lead the Imperial Army. As Lart made his way after, he'd see two maids murmuring amongst themselves. He'd check on them, and they had Magetto in their hands. He told Lart Blondina was kidnapped. They'd hear a loud bang, and Amon, bloodied and battered, asked what happened to Bridie. At the temple, he knocked out Shanti and Hala, and then bolted off. Magetto explained some man knocked Blondina out in the forest, and put her in a carriage and took her away. Lart figured it was Philip Rodson. Amon was confused. He thought Adeline and Philip were a team, so why would he kidnap Blondina? Didn't matter. He took off with Magetto immediately. Trees would step out, and Lart explained what happened. Now he felt bad for putting Blondina in danger again. The two would then be alerted that Adelaide just entered the palace with a horde of divine beasts. Trees told Lart to speed up the evacuation process and finish dispatching the royal guards, and confirm Adelaide's exact whereabouts. Adelaide searched all over for Blondina, finding her nowhere. She supposed Lart managed to find a way to hide her, but she'd find her eventually. Philip met up with him, apologizing for being late. He supposedly got lost finding his way out of the forest. Adelaide was quite suspicious of him, however, he reported the civilians were being evacuated under the command of the Emperor and Lart. Adelai's next plan, Joseph had the beasts hunt down Blondina, but first, she needed to see her father. He told her there was no need for her to come to him because he was already here. He asked if it was true that she found the descendant, and she smiled, presenting the key he gave her. Having kept her promise to him, he clenched his fist, sighing, but telling her she did well, and that he was pleased and proud that she fulfilled the royal family's long-standing quest. Her smile grew brighter until he said, "But I am also saddened." He realized way too late that coexisting with the divine beasts was the only way to maintain true peace and guarantee the safety of their people. He apologized to her as he drew his blade towards Joseph. Adelaide stood in the way of her father's blade. Both sides told each other to stand down. She had the beasts leap at her father, and she and Joseph would quickly escape. She kept telling herself she was doing the right thing, that she and her father were not wrong, and that she just needed to prove it. Then things could go back to normal. She suddenly stopped to question if things really could go back to how they once were. As Blondina was being transported away by carriage, she continued to struggle through the rope that bound her. They stopped, and the carriage driver told her they needed to switch carriages right away. Blondina wanted to see Philip, but one of his men told her he was busy and pointed his blade towards her, telling Blondina they didn't want to hurt her more than necessary. She feigned compliance and used the opportunity to knock the guard down and began to flee. Some arms caught her, and she squealed, telling them to let go. Not expecting to see Amon, she wept in his arms. She was so afraid Adelaide had done something terrible to him. He kissed her for comfort, assuring her Adelaide couldn't do anything to him. He was the strongest in the entire continent. Back in Adelaide's room, Joseph reported no traces of Blondina, not even her scent. She hadn't been here for most of the day. Sirens blaring caused Adelaide to spring up. Lart was leading the Imperial forces to subdue all of the divine beasts in the palace, with the goal to capture, not to kill. Philip arrived, but it wasn't positive for him. Figuring Lart didn't hide Blondina, Adelaide believed he did it, and was probably still obsessed with Blondina. Philip smirked, retorting she was the one still obsessing over Blondina. He explained initially he was fine marrying Adelaide once she became empress, thinking he'd reap the benefits, but at some point, he changed his mind. Pointing his blade at her neck, he thought it was better he take the crown for himself. He told Joseph not to move because Adelaide had no idea the magic stone in her stomach might not be real. He always knew she'd use her royal bloodline as an excuse to act recklessly and capriciously. That's why he couldn't entrust her with the real magic stone. He warned Joseph not to move, because if he died, Joseph would die too. The end was nigh, but out of respect for Adelaide, he'd allow her to spend her final moments with her family. He suddenly shoved her out of the window, wishing her farewell. Falling up from high, she wondered if this was how she wanted things to end. All she wanted was to be recognized, but she felt it might be better if she died. The thud would be loud as she was caught by her father. Philip told Joseph it was time to go. They needed to take control of the palace before the reinforcements arrived. Joseph responded, "You're the only one with a magic stone inside you now," dropping the stone that was once inside him on the floor. Barhan, being a deity, couldn't be controlled by something like this. He was pissed that a mere human attempted to control him and hurt the woman Joseph cared for. Pulling the blade from Philip's hilt, Barhan thanked Philip. Because of him, he now had complete control of Joseph's body. With a single stab, Philip met his end. Glancing out the window, Barhan smirked. The scent of blood in the air, the screams of pain and fear piercing the sky. He truly missed it. His eyes widened, hearing the men shout at the arrival of Blondina, riding atop Amon. Barhan could still see his fate was intertwined with Raffian's. Lart rushed over to hug Blondina. He was so relieved she was safe. Amon asked what happened to Adelaide, and Barhan answered, "She's dead. A meaningless death, just as Raffian's was in her previous life." They thought they were still dealing with the descendant, but no. This was Barhan in the flesh. He sent divine beasts towards our heroes, and Amon knocked one out with a single swipe of his paw. The other went towards Blondina, and Lart protected her. Blondina teared up. She felt so helpless. Amon told her to watch her back, but Barhan was already behind her, reminiscing on the old memories he had with the god who blessed him. He gripped her neck, wishing he could have asked how it felt to be human like she always wanted. But being reincarnated, He figured she must have no memories of her previous life. He'd hold Amon back from jumping in with more beasts, but getting distracted, Blondina found the opportunity to stab him with the sacred sword. Barhan dropped her. He thought taking control of Joseph's soul would make his body immortal. He didn't expect the sword to do so much damage. Amon took the opportunity to catch Barhan's wrist in his jaw. Barhan called for the beasts, but Amon evaded like it was nothing. Amon told Barhan to consider himself lucky. The beasts were the only reason his arm was still attached to his body. This really pissed Barhan off. He would berate Amon, telling him to blame himself for taking Raffian's powers. But Blondina would grab him, reminding Barhan he was the one who coveted the powers Raffian gave to him. Slightly prior to this, Blondina remembered Amon saying she absorbed his powers from the ring he gave her when she sunk into the water, and now she was using that to absorb Barhan's. Amon pounced from behind, ripping off Barhan's arm. Amon would then run to embrace Blondina, but he wasn't prepared for Barhan to come stalking behind with his only arm left. Blondina shoved Amon out of the way, taking the blade directly in her chest. Amon wept, begging Blondina to open her eyes. She did, and told him this was it for her. Her dear kitty. She loved every single moment they shared. She was glad she got the chance to love him and keep him safe, and also happy to spend her last moments with him. She wished him farewell, hand falling lifeless, body limp. Barhan was irritated. Killing her didn't bring his powers back. Then, he received a surprise stab from Lart with his blade from behind. This was the end of Barhan. Lart saw his sister in her lifeless state and wished he had gotten here sooner. He looked over at Raffian's sword, remembering Adlai telling him about the sword the original god bestowed upon Barhan. He presented it before Amon, thinking maybe they could use it to save Blondina. Amon took hold of it, and in front of him appeared a spectral Raffian, saying, "We meet again, my kitty cat." She thought her sword might end up in his hands one day, so she injected a bit of her power into it. He pulled away from her, saying he wasn't the divine beast she was referring to. She knew that, and while Blondina inherited her powers, they were not the same person. Imbuing Amon with more of her power, she told him to go to the spring, and so he rushed off with Blondina in his arms. Walking into the spring's water, he told Blondina about how divine beasts had periodically held ceremonies here to claim the powers of the spring. He always felt personally strange when he came to visit. He'd get overly emotional and struggle to keep himself in check. Perhaps it was because of the power Raffian bestowed upon her black leopard. He teared up, desperate to save her, dipping her in the water and putting his head on hers. He began to glow. He was sorry for what he put her through and thanked her for always loving him. In the past, Raffian told the black leopard about something humans believed in, destiny. So, if they were destined to be together, they'd find each other again in another lifetime. He thought that was nonsense though. Regardless, if it did exist, she'd want them to meet again, over and over, in the next life and beyond. Blondina woke up from the dream, jolting quickly now that she realized she was still alive. She wondered how she got here. Behind her, she saw Amon growling, but he was missing the jewel on his head. He'd suddenly dash away from her. Back at the palace, Lard presented a jewel for Shanti to swallow. He wasn't too eager to swallow the giant rock, but the two got it over with quickly. Ever since the incident, to atone for all the bloodshed, the divine beasts willingly placed themselves at the mercy of humans. Even though they'd been controlled by the descendant, they wanted to take responsibility for their actions. And just like that, humans and the divine beasts entered into a contract. Humans vowed they'd never seek out the descendant again. Adlai managed to survive, though she only had one good leg. She was thankful she was still able to walk. Trish told her he was sorry. It was his fault for showing her the key. His greed caused a rift between her and Lart, leading her down the wrong path. Adlai broke down. She felt bad because he suffered catching her. She asked why he went to such lengths to save her. But of course, it was because she was his daughter, his beloved daughter. Now she could see these were the words she wanted to hear all along. She didn't regret the things she did, but she did regret that many people were hurt as a result of the choices she made. She hoped her father would find happiness for the both of them. She regretted being a disappointment to the very end, but she didn't want him to spend his days in anguish because of her. She wanted him to forget about her and hoped he found true happiness. Adlai arrived at the estate of her exile. It was worse than she thought. If she had to spend her days here, she thought it might just be better to end it all. Her eyes widened, seeing her little escort. he looked like a childlike version of Joseph. Louis removed her handcuffs, and it was her pleasure to meet him. The coronation ceremony was coming together quickly. The emperor wanted this to take place as soon as possible, since Lart was the one who successfully signed the peace treaty with the divine beasts. Magetto told Blondina it was so far so good, so she wondered what was taking Lart so long. Lart began his walk forward. As the new emperor of Ates, he'd kneel before his father, receiving the crown on his head. The people hurrahed, cheering, "May our new sun shine brightly over the empire." Blondina was so proud of him. She just wished Amon was here to celebrate with them. Life returned to normal for everyone, except Blondina. Time stopped the moment she lost Amon. When she had found him after coming to, he completely lost his memories of her. However, she had no intention of forgetting Amon, because she was pregnant with his child. Inside her womb was the gift he left for her. Lucy suggested she come stay at the palace, but Blondina decided to stay at Amon's home instead. She wanted to be here in case he ever returned. One day, when hearing some rustling outside, she found Amon prowling. She tried to approach him, but he roared furiously, causing her to fall back. He glanced her way, seeing her bloodied ankle, and dashed off quickly. In his mind, he thought, "Damn it, ever since I laid eyes on that human, I've been feeling strange. Why can't I stop thinking about her? And why does my heart feel like it's breaking?" He was irritated and frustrated, but couldn't understand. He figured he'd just avoid her from now on. Then things would go back to normal. And yet, he couldn't help himself from spying on her. He thought, okay, maybe if he saw her one more time, he'd figure out exactly why he was feeling this way. She got up because she forgot her fork, and Amon immediately tried hiding, rustling the bushes nervously. He tried to sneak away, but she'd approach, telling him she missed him. She called him a meanie for not letting her get anywhere near him, and he felt strange seeing her endearing smile. Lart and Lucy came by, and Amon was already retreating back to the bushes. The two would leave back for the palace, and Amon approached the basket with caution. Seeing only bread and drink inside, he thought, is that all she eats? No wonder she's so weak and scrawny. She found her chance to pat his head, and he jumped back, growling and running off flustered, swearing he'd never come back, only to next morning leave a dead boar at her door. Blondina tried to figure out who could have done this. Then, Magetto's chirping reminded her Amon brought him that way too. She called out to Amon, and he popped up like she caught him. He came closer and raised his head proudly to suggest her to pet him right now, absolutely indulging in it. With the physician coming by for a visit, he growled at them because Blondina was his prey. When they left, Blondina told Amon not to bring her boar or any other game moving forward. She never liked being shocked or startled, but she especially needed to be careful now. She put Amon's paw to her tummy, telling him the big day was coming. A little bump from the inside caused him to scurry back. Blondina got tearful, telling him not to be scared. He was the father, after all. Magetto didn't like seeing her sad. He charged up and tackled Amon right in the head for making her feel bad. Blondina tried calming Magetto down. She was fine and just happy to have Amon by her side again. Outside, she asked Amon how long he was going to keep following her. She wished he'd walk beside her instead of trailing from behind. He wished he could understand what she was saying. They arrived at the sacred springs, the first place Amon thought they had met. Blondina beckoned her kitty towards her, and he came right by her side. Sitting down, she suddenly put her head to his and pleaded for his memories to come back. And before her stood Amon in his human form. He felt terrible for failing to protect her and all the pain he put her through after. He didn't think he deserved to be with her. None of that mattered now, though. She just wanted him to hold her. As they embraced, she told him he should know it was no one's fault. He did his best to protect her and the people they loved. Now it was time for them to go back to where they belonged. Lying in bed together, she caught him up on everything. Lucy and Lart got engaged, and Hala gave birth to Zen a few days ago. Blondina had been waiting for Amon's memories to come back so they could name their baby together. Back at the palace, Lucy glared at Amon. She asked to swear at him just this once, and cursed at him so badly, he was left trembling. Returning home late again, Blondina chewed Amon out, asking if he was having an affair. But he'd interrupt her with a kiss. He was holding back as best as he could, but next time she said something silly, it wouldn't end with just a kiss. He'd surprise her by explaining he came back from the palace after discussing the details of their wedding. The preparations were finally complete, and now he wanted the two of them to get married. After Lucy got Blondina ready, she led the way. Amon turned and was stunned seeing Blondina in her beautiful dress. Zen would bring Blondina a bouquet, and the small cat really reminded her of Amon when he was a kitten. Trish came to greet them and thanked everyone in attendance for this momentous occasion. He wed the two as husband and wife, who would vow to remain at each other's sides for as long as they lived. Amon took his vow, Blondina took hers, and they kissed. It was a vow made hundreds of years ago, made once again. On another day, the newly married couple would spot Magetto sulking. Blondina asked what was going on, and he was sad, asking her if he was too loud or talked too much. He was met with mostly her trying to tell him she loved the way he twittered and chirped, but he didn't take that well. Recently, he introduced them to his girlfriend. Blondina figured perhaps they weren't together anymore, but she was off. He asked if once she became a mother, would she only love her baby? Amon told Blondina that Magetto was worried that once she gave birth, she wouldn't love him anymore. That's why Magetto was so depressed. Blondina comforted the little bird, promising he was her favorite sparrow she loved very much. Lying in bed together, Amon expressed his worry for Blondina. His mother did not survive giving birth to him. Those who gave birth to black leopards could not handle their divine power. Blondina assured him she'd be fine, and showed she was finally starting to have proper control of her own magic. The two would cuddle with the thoughts of warmth and love. This was their happy ever after. Is what they thought, but she went into labor that night. Lucy had to kick Amon out of the labor room because he kept calling out to Blondina over and over as she was groaning in pain. Blondina let out a loud groan and he transformed, bursting in. He came to her side and she told him she was fine. In the cradle were their two babies. Amon peeked inside, and there lay one brown-haired and one blonde-haired. Playing with them, he couldn't believe how tiny and precious they were. Anish had brown hair and silver eyes, while Tilai had blonde hair and purple eyes. Magetto flew down to tell them he was uncle, and the two babies would grab at him. Amon could sense magic in both of them, and figured they must have inherited Blondina's powers. That was also why they were probably growing up so quickly. The couple stood proudly as their babies fought over Magetto. Tilai went to pounce, and suddenly they were fighting in divine beast form. Amon told Blondina to let them fight it out. All beasts did this as a form of play as cubs. Later, Shanti would express his troubles dealing with Zen, constantly biting at him. Amon didn't feel so sympathetic though. He didn't deal with one, but instead two little cats who always wanted to play. They were here watching the human archery tournament. Hala happened to be participating in it as well. Blondina strung her bow next and hit the target perfectly. Amon was so excited, it took him back to the days he'd sit in Blondina's arms watching the other humans shoot. Some dogs came by, and the three kittens wanted to play with their friends. But it was more like the kittens were harassing them. Amon would pull Tilai away, giving the dogs the opportunity to escape. Amon eventually put the kids to bed, and while he would talk with Blondina, she suggested the two of them go on a trip alone, since they hadn't had a moment of rest together in a while. However, they needed a babysitter. The next day, Amon brought Maharin. Remember this guy from when Amon went to meet with the Emperor the first time? Well, supposedly, when everyone else fell to the floor losing to Amon in a contest of strength, he only suffered a broken hand. Amon thought he was surely strong enough to handle their kids. The two would go on their trip, catching the beautiful sights and scenery. Blondina spotted a flower blooming on a barren cliff and thought it was beautiful. Amon would leave his jacket with her to go get it. A guy would come by and make small talk with Blondina, introducing himself as Ronan Kingsford from the Earldom of Kingsford. He asked where her guards were, since this wasn't the safest place for a lady on her own. And Amon returned, asking who the hell he was. Blondina happened to remember Ronan was the youngest of the Kingsford family who went to study abroad. She was surprised that little kid was all grown up now and trying to flirt with her. She tried to turn him down because Amon was fuming, but Ronan mistaked Amon for being her guard in disguise and offered to show her around so she didn't get lost. Amon handed Blondina the cliff flowers and went to grab Ronan. She had Amon put him down, and the attendant came running to him. After Blondina introduced herself properly, Ronan fell over again and eventually gave his sincerest apologies. He ran off to get something to make up for it. Meanwhile, Blondina sighed, thinking Amon was so childish sometimes. To punish her dear kitty, she tapped his forehead, forcing him into kitten form. She wouldn't change him back until he reflected on his actions. However, they didn't expect Ronan to return with so many gifts. Back at their hotel, Amon was giving Blondina the silent treatment. One kiss from her was all it took to make him get over it. He was fine living the rest of his life as her kitten, if that's what she wanted. But he couldn't promise he wouldn't ever get jealous again. He couldn't help it. He got angry when other men looked at her. He wanted to be the only person who got to look at her. She was moved by his words, and the two kissed. Her, with the loving thoughts of wanting him to be hers and hers alone. Meanwhile, Maharin was having a lot of trouble dealing with the twins. They made fun of him for being too slow, telling him to take the armor off, but he knew if he did, they'd shred his clothes again. Anish tackled him so hard, he broke Maharin's last set of armor. But eventually, it was nap time. Maharin finally got a moment of reprieve until Uncle Magetto came to play. Nap time over, chaos begin. Waking up slowly, Blondina felt a paw pressing against her face. It was Amon. For some strange reason, he's been transforming into a kitten more often these days. Whenever he was in this form, he made ridiculous requests, like, "Show me some love." They thought it'd be a peaceful day, except their little rascals were fighting over Magetto again. Blondina wanted to break the two up, but just a few days ago, they told her they were all grown up now and wanted to play by themselves. No interrupting or butting in. She sighed, thinking they grew up so fast. The branch broke under Tilai, and he fell into the river. Amon chased after and picked up his soaking boy immediately. The water here was a lot more shallow than it looked. After Blondina dried Tilai off, the twins were already back to playing. Meanwhile, Amon was sulking, telling her he was wet too. She could see he felt left out because she was only paying attention to the kids. She told her big kitty to come here, and he transformed, looking to get his kiss for a reward. But the kids would interrupt by bringing snacks for them to eat together. Now Amon was attentionless again. On a day when visiting the palace, the twins were telling their grandfather to play with them. Blondina would give them a scolding, telling them they mustn't call him grandfather, but Your Majesty instead. They didn't understand why, since Zen called his mother's father grandfather. The two didn't take anything serious. Trish smiled, thinking his daughter had such a loving family. There was a time where he dreamt of having the same. Several decades ago, a younger Trish had his men bring the next potential descendant over. His eyes widened seeing Lily. She was annoyed because they dragged her out of nowhere when she was just living her life. She especially scolded Trish, thinking he was some kind of nobleman, and told him being a noble didn't give him the right to drag people as he pleased. He'd calm her down and lead her into the temple where the harp was. Since it didn't play, he apologized for wasting her time, and as a token of his apology, offered to escort her back to the village by himself. She wouldn't have to deal with his rude knight. She turned away blushing, but accepted. She had no idea he was only interested in going to her village, since this was the 4th time someone with blonde hair and golden eyes was discovered near there. They searched every village in the area, but Lily seemed to be the last of the golden eyes in this region. Trish felt he must find the descendant to succeed the throne, otherwise he might lose out to one of his brothers. One of the knights would suddenly tell him they found another potential descendant and lead Trish and another knight out to a secluded area. The knight apologized because his mother was being held hostage by one of the other princes and went to attack Trish. Trish managed to finish them off, but there was no guarantee they were the only assassins sent here. He needed to get away, but could barely stand upright. Collapsing, he wondered if this was how it all ended. But Lily would wake him up, and now that he was awake, she told him to let go. It was funny, since she constantly told him to let go. Yet, here she was, here. She checked his forehead. His fever had gone down quite a bit. She happened to be gathering herbs when she saw he collapsed bloodied all over, so she brought him to her home. He'd later meet her in private in order to repay her kindness, offering to buy her anything she wanted here at the marketplace. Jewelry, a new dress, whatever she wanted really. He accompanied her as she took a look around. Seeing a flower vendor, she took one rose and asked if he could get it for her. He asked if she was certain a single rose would suffice. Usually women wanted a bouquet, no? So she answered he could by all means give her a bouquet, 1 rose per day. That's what she wanted. He agreed, and when this rose withered, he'd replace it with another. 6 months later, they'd find themselves in a flowery field. Trish hoped their child would like it as much as she did. He'd grow distraught, seeing an assassin peeking at a tree over. He ran over to protect Lily. The assassin disappeared. She asked why he suddenly called out her name, and he made the excuse he was afraid she'd trip and hurt herself. Really though, he assumed his brothers were using Lily to threaten him, and decided they should lay low for a while. She'd grown tired of staying home all the time and wanted to get some fresh air. But ever since that day, wherever they went, he could sense they were being followed. Lily then gave him a letter that didn't have a return address. He read it and got pissed. It declared if he wasn't able to find a descendant in the next 6 months, he'd have no choice but to allow his brothers to ascend the throne. There was no need to give up yet though. There was still a chance their child might end up being the descendant. And if that was the case, he could ascend the throne with Lily and their child by his side. Tree stared in horror, seeing their daughter's gleaming silver eyes. One night, he got up to meet with one of his informants. Lily overheard from the other side of the door that Lady Vintium agreed to marry him, and he needed to return to the castle as soon as possible. Blondina started to cry, so she picked her up to comfort her. She knew Trige wasn't an average noble, and that he wouldn't be able to stay with them for long. It hurt, but she knew this day would come. She pulled herself together, resolved with the idea that both she and Trige were simply going back to where the two of them belonged. She and Blondina would have each other, but she felt bad because Trige would be all alone. She prayed for his happiness. Adelaide had terrible nightmares about everyone leaving her behind. Her eyes awakened to who she thought was Joseph, but was of course her attendant Louis. Soon after, she'd have him sit with her with tea and snacks. She wanted company. She thought he resembled Joseph so much and asked if he had any siblings. Turns out he had a younger brother. No luck being related to Joseph. We learned he came to work here having lost his father around this time of year, and since then, his family fell into financial difficulty. So, he started looking for work and ended up here. Adelaide questioned if he resented his mother and brother for sending him here, and he admitted being sad at first, but he didn't feel that way anymore because everyone treated him so kindly here. He also got to have warm meals in his very own room, whereas his family didn't have that luxury. He was sure his family was jealous that he got to work here, though they didn't say as much. In short, they understood each other. It clicked for Adelaide. If she had made an effort to understand her family, then maybe things could have turned out differently. She'd later asked the maid for pen and parchment. She wanted to send a letter to her father. On another morning, Blondina woke her kids up because they needed to get ready for a party at the palace today. Next, she had to deal with Amand, who was still trying to be cute in kitty form. She couldn't understand. He's inexplicably been in kitten form for the past few days, and didn't seem to be in any hurry to change back. But either way, she found him cute. They arrived in their matching outfits, and the boys were excited to see all the people and yummy-looking food. Shanti and Hala were also there with Zen. The kids were eating and playing, while Shanti and Hala watched over them. Amon was glad to finally be alone with Blondina. Not. Lucy and Lart came by. Lart was thankful that Blondina introduced him to Ronan. He actually had time to spend with Lucy. They'd get pulled away with news the delegation from the east arrived. And with them making their entrance, Blondina was stunned by their beautiful dark hair. This got Amon annoyed, so he jumped down and transformed. Not having seen him like this for a while, Blondina thought he was more handsome than usual. He wanted her to stop looking at other people, only him instead. He was in kitten form all this time because he wanted to get her attention. She embraced him, promising she never harbored a shred of interest in anyone besides him. He didn't need to worry because he'd always be her one and only. The boys wanted to get in as well, so they all hugged as a happy family. Wow, it's finally over. That took quite a bit. I got recommended this a while ago and wanted to check it out, and overall, I thought it was fine. It was really exciting from the beginning to where Blondina and Amon were first having a relationship, but everything past that before the epilogue, I got somewhat bored. Like, oh wow, Blondina is secretly the goddess reincarnated, and she and Amon are destined lovers that have to defeat the evil demigod with a chip on his shoulder. Not the worst, but definitely felt predictable. Also, not a fan of Adelaide being morally gray and just some girl who was jealous of her new big sister taking the spotlight when she was terrible right from the beginning. Ain't nobody sympathizing with Adelaide. They should have just written her to be full evil. I would have liked her better then. Epilogue is good. It does what an epilogue should do, so I'm satisfied with that. But what do you guys think? Subscribe for more content, but for now, watch this next video. It's me, ComfyTea. I'll see you all in the next one.